I moved to the village because I wanted peace. City life had worn me down. Too much noise, too many people. I just needed somewhere quiet, somewhere I could breathe. The village was small, maybe 20 houses, a tiny grocery store, one cafe, and a post office that looked like it hadn't changed in 50 years. I found a rental online. It was cheap. A one-story house with old wooden walls, a small garden, and a view of the cemetery behind it. Yes, a cemetery. I didn't mind at first. It was a little strange, sure, but it was quiet. No one came by, no kids playing, no traffic, just birds and wind and the sound of my own footsteps. The man who gave me the keys didn't say much. He was maybe in his 60s. "You're sure about this place?" he asked me. I nodded. "Yeah, I like the quiet." He just grunted and handed me the keys. The first few nights were fine. I unpacked, made tea, read books. I'd sit on the porch in the evening and watch the sky turn dark. The cemetery sat just beyond a short fence. Most of the stones were old and grey. Some leaned to the side. It looked forgotten. One afternoon, I went for a walk. I followed the path behind the house and walked along the cemetery fence. That's when I saw her, an old woman. She was sitting by one of the graves near the far edge. I stopped walking. She didn't move. She didn't even turn her head, just sat there, still as stone. No flowers, no candle, just her, sitting cross-legged on the grass, hands folded in her lap. I stared for a while. Something about her felt strange, not scary, just off. I thought maybe she was deep in thought, maybe visiting someone she lost. But when I walked back the same way an hour later, she was still there. Same spot, same position. Didn't even shift. I peeked through the fence again, trying not to stare. Her eyes were open, looking straight ahead. Not at the grave, not at anything, just staring. That night, I kept thinking about her. I told myself maybe she lived nearby. Maybe she visited the grave every day. Maybe she just didn't like to be bothered. Still, something made my skin crawl. The next morning, I asked the man at the cafe if he knew her. "There was an old lady by the cemetery yesterday," I said. "She was just sitting there." He looked up from the counter. "What did she look like?" "Thin, grey hair, long black coat." Didn't say anything. He stared at me for a second, then shrugged. "Don't know. Lots of folks come through." But I could tell he was lying. He went quiet after that. The woman didn't come back for a few days. Then, one evening, around sunset, I saw her again. Same grave, same clothes, same stillness, like she hadn't moved at all. Like she'd been sitting there the whole time, just waiting for something or someone. And this time, she looked right at me. She didn't blink. She didn't smile. She just stared. And I don't know why. But I looked away first. I turned and walked back inside, shut the door and locked it. For the first time since I moved there, I didn't feel alone. I felt watched. A few days passed after I saw the old woman by the grave. I kept thinking maybe I imagined it. Maybe she was just someone passing through. Maybe she wouldn't come back, but she did. One evening, I went for a walk again. Same path, same time. The sky was grey, and the air felt heavy. I stayed close to the cemetery fence. I didn't want to look, but I couldn't help it. And there she was, same spot, same black coat, same grey hair tied back, sitting in the grass with her hands folded in her lap. Her eyes were open again, staring straight ahead at nothing. I froze. She looked exactly the same, like she hadn't moved since the last time I saw her, like she had just stayed there. I watched her for a while. She didn't blink. She didn't shift or stretch, just sat there. I don't know why, but I decided to say something. "Hi," I called out, keeping some distance. Nothing. I stepped a little closer to the fence. "Ma'am, are you okay?" Still nothing. No movement. No reaction at all. It was like she didn't hear me or didn't care. I waved. "Do you need help?" Not even a blink. I looked around. The cemetery was empty. No one else was nearby. I thought maybe she was deaf, or maybe really deep in thought. But something didn't feel right. Her face, it looked too still. Her skin was pale, almost grey. Her eyes were open, but there was no light in them. Like she was staring, but not seeing anything. I felt this tight feeling in my chest. My legs wanted to move, to run, but I stayed. I didn't want to be rude. I didn't want to leave if she actually needed help. "Are you visiting someone?" I asked. Still nothing. I took one more step closer to the fence. That's when I noticed something that made my skin crawl. She wasn't blinking, not once. I stood there watching her for maybe a full minute. Nothing moved. Not her hands, not her head, not even her eyes. I started to back away. I didn't say anything else. I just turned and walked down the path, fast but not running. When I got back to the house, I shut the door and locked it again. Same as last time. I stood in the kitchen, breathing hard. My hands felt cold. Something was wrong with that woman. She didn't act like a normal person. She didn't even seem alive. I thought maybe I should call someone. The police, maybe. But what would I say? "Hi, there's a lady sitting by a grave and she's too still." They'd think I was crazy, so I told myself to leave it alone. Don't go near the cemetery again. Don't look at her. But the next night, when I looked out my window, I could see her from a distance, still sitting there. Same spot, same clothes, same blank face, waiting. I couldn't sleep for days. I kept seeing that old woman in my head, her still face, her wide eyes, just sitting there. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her. That night, it started raining. Soft at first, then harder. Thunder rumbled far away. I got out of bed and looked through the window. She was there again, sitting, in the same spot near the edge of the cemetery. In the rain, not moving, not even trying to stay dry. I grabbed my flashlight and a coat. I don't know why, I just needed to see. I had to know who she was, who she was visiting. I stepped outside. The rain hit my face, cold and fast. My shoes sank into the wet ground as I walked toward the fence. I climbed over it. The cemetery was quiet. Just the sound of rain hitting the grass and stone. My flashlight flicked as I walked, the light bouncing off the headstones. I looked for her, but the spot where she usually sat was empty. She was gone. My stomach turned. Maybe she left. Maybe she saw me coming. I walked to the grave she always sat by. I aimed the flashlight at the stone. That's when I saw it. The headstone was blank. No name, no date, nothing. Just a smooth, weathered stone. I blinked. That didn't make sense. Why would anyone sit by an empty grave? Maybe the name had faded. Maybe it was too old to read. But even old graves still have something. This had nothing. I reached out and touched it. The stone felt cold and wet. My hand shook a little. I pulled it back. Something was wrong. I turned around to leave. My flashlight flickered again. For a second, it went out, and then I heard it. A soft, wet sound behind me, like shoes moving through the mud. I spun around and pointed the light toward the sound. She was there, standing this time, closer than I'd ever seen her. Her face was pale, her mouth slightly open, her eyes locked on mine. She didn't move. She didn't blink. She just stared. I couldn't speak. My breath caught in my throat. She was soaking wet, but she didn't seem to care. Her coat clung to her thin frame. Her grey hair stuck to her cheeks. I whispered, "Who are you?" She didn't answer. She didn't even flinch. She tilted her head slightly, just a little, like a curious dog. I took a step back. My heels slipped in the mud, and I almost fell. She didn't move. I turned and ran. I didn't stop to look back. I jumped over the fence and ran straight into the house. My heart pounded in my ears. I locked the door. I turned off all the lights. Stood in the dark, holding the flashlight, shaking. Why was that grave blank? And why was she always there? No flowers, no candle, no name, just her, sitting, waiting, after what happened in the graveyard. I tried to stay away from the cemetery. I stopped walking by it. I closed my curtains at night. I didn't want to see that woman again. But even when I stayed inside, something didn't feel right. It started with little sounds. One night, I was in bed when I heard a faint knock. It came from the wall behind my headboard. I sat up and listened. Nothing, just silence. I lay back down, then it happened again. Knock, knock, knock. It wasn't loud, just soft and slow. I tried to tell myself it was the old wood shifting. The house was old, after all. But the next night, I heard whispers. I was brushing my teeth when I heard them, coming from the vent above the sink. I turned off the water and leaned in. It was a low voice. I couldn't understand the words, but it sounded like someone talking through the wall, too quiet to make out. I said, "Hello." It stopped. I opened the vent cover, but there was nothing inside, just dust and darkness. The night after that, the floorboards started creaking. Not once, not just when I walked. It was happening by themselves. I was sitting in the living room, lights off, watching a movie on my laptop. And from the hallway, I heard slow, heavy steps. Creak, creak, eak. They stopped right outside the room. I froze. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I looked at the doorway, waiting for something to step through. Nothing did. When I finally got the courage to check, the hallway was empty. But the feeling stayed. The next night, I had a dream. In the dream, I was asleep in bed. Everything was quiet. Then I opened my eyes, and she was there. The old woman, sitting in the chair across the room, facing me. She wasn't moving. Her hands were in her lap. Her eyes were wide open, just staring at me. I tried to speak, but I couldn't. My mouth wouldn't open. I couldn't move either. My body felt stuck. I watched her as she sat there, and then she stood up. She walked over to my bed, slowly. Her face didn't change. She didn't blink. She stopped right beside me. She leaned down, her face just inches from mine, and she whispered something into my ear. But I couldn't understand what she said. I woke up, gasping. My heart was racing. My bedsheets were soaked in sweat. I jumped out of bed and turned on every light in the house. There was no one there, no chair in my room, no woman, no sound, just me, alone. I told myself it was just a dream, but I had the same dream again the next night, and the one after that, each time. It felt more real. I could feel her breath. I could smell her clothes, old and dusty. And every time she leaned in to whisper, it felt like I almost understood her, but then I'd wake up, and I'd still hear her voice echoing in my ear, like she wasn't done speaking yet, like she was trying to tell me something, or maybe trying to remember who I was. I couldn't stop thinking about her, the way she just sat there, the way she stared, the blank grave, the dreams. I needed answers, so the next morning I walked to the village cafe. It was small, just a few tables and a counter. The same man who gave me the house key was behind it. He was wiping glasses with a rag. I sat down and waited until he looked at me. Double quotes. "Hey," I said. "Can I ask you something?" He didn't answer, just kept wiping. "There's a woman," I said. "She sits by a grave near my house. An old woman, grey hair, black coat. You know who she is." His hand stopped moving. He looked up slowly. "Forget her," he said. "What?" I said. "Forget her. Don't go near her again." I blinked. "Why? Who is she?" He set the glass down hard. It made a loud sound. "She doesn't matter." That didn't feel true at all. "She's always in the same spot," I said. "She never moves, and the grave has no name." He shook his head. "You don't understand," he said. "Just leave it alone." I leaned forward. "You do know her." He stood up straight and pointed to the door. "You should leave." That was it. He didn't say anything else. I left, confused and angry. Down the road, I saw an old man sitting. On a bench, he was feeding birds. I walked over. "Excuse me," I said. "Can I ask you something?" He smiled and nodded. "Sure, there's a woman in the cemetery. She's always sitting by a grave. Thin, white hair. I keep seeing her." The old man's hand froze in the air. A piece of bread dropped from his fingers. "Did she speak to you?" he asked. "No," I said. "She just stares." He looked down at the birds. "She never left," he said softly. "She can't." "What do you mean?" "She died a long time ago," he said. "But she doesn't know she's dead." I waited for him to say more. He didn't. I sat down next to him. "How do you know that?" He looked at me. His eyes were sharp now, angry, because I was there when they buried her. My chest felt tight. "Who was she?" He stood up fast. I said, "Leave it alone. Don't ask again." He dropped the rest of the bread and walked away without another word. I sat there, confused. Later, I tried asking the woman at the grocery store. I described the old woman, the grave, everything. She just looked at me like I hadn't said anything. Then she turned and helped the next person in line. Another man passed by me in the street. I asked him to. He kept walking like he didn't hear. It was like they all knew, like they were scared to talk, like saying her name might bring her closer that night. I locked every door and window. I sat in bed, holding my phone, thinking about what the old man said. She never left. She can't. And that blank grave. Why was everyone afraid? And why did it feel like I was the next person she was waiting for? I couldn't stop thinking about what the old man said. She never left. She can't. What did that even mean? Who was she? Why wouldn't anyone tell me? I needed answers. The village had a tiny library next to the post office. I went there the next morning. Inside, it smelled like dust and old paper. A woman sat at the front desk reading a magazine. She didn't even look up when I walked in. I went straight to the back, where they kept old records and newspapers. Most of the papers were yellow and fragile. Some were more than 50 years old. I didn't really know what I was looking for, so I just started reading. I searched for words like grave, cemetery, death, accident, and woman found. I went through page after page, hour after hour. Nothing came up. Then I found it. A short obituary. Near the back of a newspaper from 32 years ago. It didn't have a photo, just 2 short paragraphs. Margaret Elwood, age 79, passed away in her home last Friday. Ms. Elwood lived alone for many years at the edge of Rosehill Cemetery. Her cause of death is unknown. No signs of struggle or injury were found. Authorities were called after neighbors noticed her curtains hadn't moved in days. She was buried in Rosehill Cemetery on Monday morning. That was it. No family, no visitors, no real answers, but the name of the cemetery caught my eye. Rosehill, that was. The one behind my house. I looked at the date again. 32 years ago, I thought about the woman I'd seen by the grave. Grey hair, thin face, black coat. The same person, maybe. I took a photo of the article with my phone and went back to the desk. The woman at the counter finally looked at me. Her eyes landed on the newspaper in my hand. "You done?" she asked. I nodded. "Do you know who Margaret Elwood was?" She blinked. "Why? I think she used to live in my house." Her face changed. She didn't answer. "She died in the house," I said. "It's in the paper." The woman stood up and held out her hand. "You shouldn't be reading those. They're not for visitors." I gave her the paper and left. Back at home, I sat on the porch and looked out at the cemetery. She had been buried there. That had to be her grave. The one with no name. The one the old woman sat by. Every night, I opened the photo on my phone again and read the obituary out loud. Margaret Elwood, age 79. No cause of death. Buried at Rosehill. I looked at the grave through the trees. That was her. It had to be. She lived in my house. She died in my house. And now she sat by her own grave. Like she was waiting for something. But if that was really her, then what was she doing here? Why was she still around? And why was her name never carved into the stone? I stared at the cemetery for a long time. I didn't want to go back in there. Not again. But part of me knew I'd have to. I couldn't take it anymore. The noises had gotten worse. Every night, I heard footsteps in the hallway, knocking on the walls, whispers near the vents. And every time I dreamed, she was there, the old woman, standing in my room, leaning over me, whispers I couldn't understand. Last night, I woke up and my bedroom door was wide open. I always keep it shut. I was scared. I barely slept. I sat up in bed, shaking, listening for sounds. That's when I noticed something strange. A spot on the floor, a long crack in the old wooden boards near the wall. I stared at it for a long time. I didn't know why, but I felt drawn to it. The next morning, I grabbed a flashlight and a screwdriver. I went to the crack and got on my knees. The board was loose. I pried it up, dust shot up in my face. The smell was thick, like mold and old paper. Under the board, I saw a small gap, like someone had hidden something there. I reached in and pulled out a tin box. It was cold and rusted. I opened it slowly. Inside were a few strange items. A black hairbrush with long grey hairs stuck in it. A small hand mirror with a cracked handle. 3 old letters, folded neatly and tied with string. And 1 photograph. My hands were shaking as I picked it up. It was faded. The edges were worn, but I could still see the face clearly. It was her, the same old woman from the graveyard. She was sitting in a chair, holding that same hairbrush. She didn't smile. Her eyes looked empty. I turned the photo over. There were words written on the back in small, shaky handwriting. For when I forget who I am. I felt a chill run through my whole body. I looked at the other things again. The brush, the mirror, the letters. These were hers. She had lived in this house. This was her hiding spot. I opened one of the letters. It was written in the same shaky handwriting. Most of the words were smudged, but I could read parts of it. I hear them at night, ... Someone walking in the walls. She keeps calling my name. I think I'm forgetting. I put the letter down. Another one said, I saw myself in the mirror, but it wasn't me. Her eyes were black. I can't sleep. The last one just said, I'm still here, even after the funeral. Why won't they see me? My throat felt tight. I sat there on the floor, holding the photo, trying to breathe. She had been losing her mind in this house. She'd heard the same sounds. She'd seen things in the mirror. She'd written to herself to remember who she was. And now she was sitting by a blank grave every night. Like she didn't know she was gone. Like she was still trying to remember. I carefully put the items back in the box and slid it under the floor again. I didn't want them out. I nailed the board shut. That night, I didn't sleep. I couldn't stop thinking about the photo, that face, those words on the back. For when I forget who I am. And I had this awful thought stuck in my head. What if she's not the only one forgetting? I woke up to a sound in the middle of the night. It was soft at first, a low humming, like someone singing a slow song with no words. I sat up in bed. The sound was coming from down the hall. I didn't move for a while. I just sat there, listening. My room was dark. The humming kept going. It didn't stop. It wasn't coming from outside, it was inside the house. I grabbed my phone. It was 2:41 a.m. I slowly got out of bed and walked into the hallway. I didn't turn on the lights. The sound got louder as I passed the bathroom. That's when I realized it was coming from the bathroom mirror. I stopped in the doorway and listened. The humming was clear now, slow and quiet. I reached in and flipped on the light. The humming stopped. I stepped into the bathroom. No one was there. I stared at the mirror. My reflection looked back at me. I waited. Nothing happened. I splashed cold water on my face and looked up again. That's when I saw her. The old woman. She was standing behind me in the mirror. I froze. She was right there, just behind my left shoulder. Her mouth was closed. Her eyes were wide. Her face was pale. But when I turned around, ... no one was there. I looked back at the mirror. She was still in it, still behind me, but in real life. The room was empty. I turned around again, fast this time. Still nothing. Back to the mirror. She was there. My reflection was normal, standing still, scared. but hers. Her head was slowly turning to face me. My body wasn't moving, but her reflection was. I started breathing harder than her mouth opened. She began whispering something. I pressed my hands against the sink. "What do you want?" She didn't answer. She just kept whispering. I couldn't hear the words. It was like her voice was underwater, but it felt like she was saying the same thing again and again. I backed away from the mirror. My hands were shaking. "Stop," I said. "Leave me alone." Her mouth stopped moving. For a second, she just stared. Then her hand in the mirror moved slowly, reaching out toward me. But my reflection didn't copy it, only her. I turned and ran out of the bathroom. I slammed the door shut and locked it. I stood in the hallway, trying to catch my breath. My heart was pounding. My hands were cold. I waited. No sound, no humming, no footsteps, just silence. I didn't go back in the bathroom that night. I couldn't. I slept on the couch with the lights on. The next morning, I went into the bathroom again. I looked at the mirror. There was nothing there, just me. But when I leaned in close, I saw something on the glass. A handprint, right where her hand had touched it. It wasn't mine. It was smaller, thinner, and old. I wiped it away, but even after it was gone, I could still hear her voice in my head, whispering something. I almost understood, like she was trying to tell me something important, or trying to remember something she forgot. I don't remember falling asleep. I don't remember going outside. But when I opened my eyes, I was sitting in the grass. My legs were crossed. My hands were folded in my lap. And right in front of me was the same blank grave, the one she always sat by. The sun was out. Birds were chirping. It was morning. I blinked a few times and looked around. My head felt heavy, like I hadn't slept at all. My back was sore. My clothes were damp from the grass. I stood up slowly. I had no idea how I got there. I looked down at the grave again. Still no name, still no dates. Just a plain grey stone. She wasn't there. The old woman was gone. I checked my pockets. My phone was missing. I had no idea what time it was. I walked toward the path. A man passed by, walking his dog. He looked at me and nodded politely. "Good morning," he said, with a soft voice. I nodded back, "Morning." But the way he looked at me, it was strange. Like he felt sorry for me. Another person passed by, a woman pushing a stroller. She gave me a little smile and said, "You doing okay today, dear?" I frowned. "Yeah, I guess." She kept walking. I stood there, confused. Then I heard a small voice behind me. "Hi, Miss Margaret." I turned fast. A girl was standing near the fence, maybe 7 or 8 years old. She had a jump rope in her hand. "What did you say?" I asked. She smiled. "You look different today." I stepped closer. "What did you call me?" She tilted her head. "Miss Margaret, that's your name, right?" My mouth went dry. Margaret, that was the name from the obituary. Margaret Elwood, the woman who used to live in my house. The woman who died there. The woman who sat by this grave. "No," I said. "That's not my name." The girl blinked. "But everyone says it is." I took a step back. My heart started pounding. I turned and ran back toward the house. Everything looked the same. Same road, same trees, same gate. I reached my front door and pushed it open, but something felt off inside. The pictures on the wall were gone. The mirror by the door, cracked, and on the table near the window, there was an old black hairbrush. I picked it up. It had grey hairs in it. I dropped it and backed away. I ran to the bedroom. The bed looked made, but the blankets weren't mine. The photo I found under the floor, the one of the old woman, was now sitting on my nightstand. I stared at it. It looked more like me. Same eyes, same mouth, same tired look. I shook my head. No, that's not me. That's not me. I walked to the mirror, and for a second, I didn't recognize the face looking back. It looked like me, but older and tired and wrong. I backed away, breathing fast. Outside, I could still hear the girl with the jump rope. "Bye, Miss Margaret," she sang. I shut the door, I locked it, and I sat down on the floor, shaking. Something happened. Something changed, and I don't know if I'm still me anymore. I don't live in the house anymore. Not really. I'm not sure when it happened. It's all kind of blurry now. I remember being in the house. Then I remember the dreams, the mirror, the voice, and now I'm here. I sit by the grave most days, the same one she sat by, the one with no name. It feels like I've been here for a long time, but I don't get hungry. I don't feel cold. I just sit. Sometimes I think about who I used to be. I try to remember my name, but it slips away when I grab at it, like smoke in my hands. The house looks different now. Someone else lives there, a young man, maybe in his 20s. I saw him move in 2 days ago. He carried boxes into the house with a friend. They laughed and joked like it was just a normal house, like they didn't feel it watching them. He hasn't seen me yet, not really, but today he walked past the cemetery. He was holding a coffee cup. He stayed on the path. When he got close, he slowed down, just a little. His eyes flicked toward me. I didn't move. He kept walking. He didn't say anything, didn't stop, but I saw the way his eyes lingered. He saw me, maybe only for a second, maybe just the shape of me sitting here. But he saw it reminded me of the first time I saw her, the old woman, back when I thought she was just visiting a grave. Didn't know then that I'd become her, that I'd sit here, waiting, that I'd forget who I was. He doesn't know it yet, but he will. I watch him through the trees. At night, I see the light in the bathroom flicker. I see him looking in the mirror, wiping the steam away. He hasn't heard the whispers yet, or maybe he has, and he's just pretending not to. That's how it starts. You pretend it's nothing. You brush it off. Then it comes again and again. And soon you can't sleep. Soon you start to forget little things. Where you put your keys. What day it is. Your own name. I know what's coming for him. I know the signs. But I don't warn him. I just sit here, watching, waiting, like she did for me. A breeze moves the grass around the grave. The stone still has no name. No one has ever carved it, but I know who it belongs to now. I don't try to leave. I don't even stand up. I just keep my hands folded in my lap. The way she did it feels right. The young man walks back toward the house, sipping his coffee. He glances at me again. His pace slows, just for a second. Then he keeps going. No words, no questions, just that look. I smile, though I don't know why. Maybe I'm happy someone saw me, or maybe I just know what's waiting. For him, he doesn't know it yet, but he will. There was a tunnel behind my shower wall. I followed it. He always wondered why the tiles behind the shower felt hollow. One night he pushed hand found a tunnel, a path where no path should be. I moved into the apartment because it was cheap. One bedroom, tiny kitchen, old carpet. The walls were yellowed and the paint in the bathroom was peeling. But the rent was low and the building was quiet. Too quiet. There weren't many neighbors. I saw an old man in the hallway once, but he didn't speak. Just looked at me and nodded. The first week went fine. I unpacked, went to work, came home, watched TV, and went to sleep. The water worked, the lights worked, and the heat clicked on at night with a soft groan. Then the drip started. It was a slow, steady sound. I noticed it one night while brushing my teeth. I turned off the faucet and listened. Drip. Drip, drippy. Checked everything. The sink wasn't leaking. The tub was dry. The faucet handles were tight. Still, the sound kept going. Drip, drip. It was coming from behind the wall. I pressed my ear to the tile next to the shower. The dripping was louder there. Not on the floor, not in the pipes. Somewhere deeper, behind the wall itself. I tapped the tiles with my knuckles. Most sounded solid, but one spot near the bottom corner behind the shower head made a dull, hollow thump. That's weird, I thought. But I was tired, and it was late, so I went to bed. The next night, it was louder. I tried turning on the fan to cover the sound. Didn't help. I even put a towel under the bathroom door. Still, I could hear it. Drip, drip, drip. I dreamed I was standing in water, cold, ankle deep. Water that filled the hallway. I kept hearing that same dripping, echoing louder and louder, until it was the only sound. I woke up sweaty. That morning, I checked the pipes again. No leaks. I called the building office, but no one answered. I left a message and didn't hear back. By the third day, it was starting to get to me. I was brushing my teeth again, and I said out loud, "Where are you coming from?" Of course, no one answered. I knocked on the hollow tile again. Same sound. I pressed harder this time, and it gave a little, like it was loose. I stared at it. For a second, I thought about pulling it off, just to see. But I did. Instead, I got duct tape and tried to cover the spot. I figured maybe it would block the sound. It did. Drip, 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 that night. I left the bathroom light on. I didn't know why. I just didn't like the idea of that noise in the dark. I stood outside the door, just listening. I whispered, "Stop." The drip paused. only for a second. Then it started again, drip, drip. I backed away and went to bed. I pulled the covers over my head and turned my back to the door. I kept telling myself it was just old pipes. Old buildings make noise. That's all it is. But deep down, I knew that sound wasn't normal. It didn't belong there, and it felt like it wasn't going away. The dripping wouldn't stop. It had been almost a week. Day and night, I heard it. Even with the door closed. Even with the fan on. I started leaving the TV on just to drown it out. But it didn't help. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I knew where it was coming from now. Behind the shower wall. There was one tile that sounded different when I knocked. Hollow, like something was behind it. One night, I grabbed a flashlight and went into the bathroom. I shut the door and sat on the edge of the tub, just listening. Drip, drip, I leaned close to the wall and tapped on the tile again. Same spot, same sound. I pressed my fingers against it. It moved, not a lot, just a little, but it moved. I pulled my hand back fast. It felt like I wasn't supposed to touch it, like it should have been solid, sealed, locked in place. But it wasn't. I stared at it for a long time. Then I pressed again, harder. This time, it shifted more. I heard a soft crack, like something breaking behind it. The edge of the tile popped up, just slightly dot. It was loose. My heart started beating faster. I reached under the sink and found a butter knife. I slid the knife into the gap and slowly worked the tile free. It took a few minutes, but finally, with a dry snap, the whole square came loose. I held it in my hand. Behind it was blackness. A hole, not just a crack in the wall, a real hole. Big enough for my arm, maybe more. The air that came out of it smelled old, damp, like earth and dust. I aimed my flashlight into the hole and leaned in. I saw more tiles, and then nothing, just black. I stuck my hand inside and felt around. The wall opened up behind the tile. It wasn't just a small space. It felt wide, like a tunnel. I pulled my hand out and stared into it. "What is this?" I whispered. The dripping was louder now, not echoing anymore. It sounded close, too close. I turned off the flashlight and stepped back. I suddenly felt cold. My legs were shaking. I put the tile on the floor and just stood there, staring at the hole in my bathroom wall. I didn't want to look away, but I didn't want to get closer either. It was like the space behind that wall had been waiting for someone to find it. I left the bathroom light on and walked backward into the hallway. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that hole, that tunnel, and I swear the dripping got faster. Drip, 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 like something inside was waking up. I couldn't stop looking at the hole in my bathroom wall. Every time I passed the door, I peeked inside. The loose tile was still on the floor. The hole behind it looked like a dark mouth, just waiting. I told myself I wouldn't touch it again. But the next night, I did. I grabbed my flashlight, a screwdriver, and a pair of gloves. I sat on the edge of the tub and aimed the light inside. Dust floated in the beam. The space behind the tile was deeper than I thought. Not just a crack, a full tunnel. I slid the flashlight in farther. The tunnel went off to the right, maybe 2 or 3 feet high. Narrow, tight. The walls looked like old wood and drywall. It ran between the walls of the apartment, like something was built there on purpose, then hidden. I reached in and scratched at the edge. Some of the wall broke off easily. I used the screwdriver to pull away more tile. Then I peeled back the crumbling drywall. It came off in chunks, soft and damp. Soon the hole was big enough for me to fit through. I sat back and stared at it. I didn't want to go in, but I couldn't just leave it there. I had to know, so I turned on the flashlight, took a deep breath, and crawled in. The air changed right away. It was cold, still. It smelled like dirt and metal. Everything was quiet, like I had left the real world behind. The walls were close on both sides. I had to keep my elbows tight. I could feel bits of wood and nails poking through the sides. I crawled forward, slow and careful. 1 foot, 2 feet, 5 feet in. The light only reached a short distance ahead, but the tunnel kept going, farther than it should. I live on the top floor of the building. There shouldn't be space for something like this. But the tunnel just kept going forward, like it didn't care what was real. I stopped. My hand touched something soft, like cloth. I pulled back fast and shined the light. It was an old shirt, just lying there, dusty and torn, half buried under loose drywall. I stared at it for a long time. Then I heard it creak. It came from somewhere farther inside. A soft sound, like weight shifting on wood. I froze. I held my breath. Nothing. I turned my head and looked back the way I came. The opening to the bathroom felt far now, like a small square of light behind me. Suddenly, I didn't want to be there anymore. I started backing out. Fast, my back scraped against the top of the tunnel. I dropped the screwdriver. Didn't care, just crawled until I reached the opening and tumbled out onto the bathroom floor. I lay there, breathing hard. Then I kicked the tile back over the hole and turned off the flashlight. I sat on the floor for a while, just listening. I didn't hear anything, but I couldn't stop thinking about how deep that tunnel felt, and how something in there moved. I didn't open the tunnel again. After I crawled in and heard that creak, I swore I was done. I kicked the tile back in place and taped it shut. I even moved a chair in front of it, but the apartment didn't feel normal anymore. The dripping stopped. I thought that would make things better, but it didn't, because something else replaced it. I started hearing other sounds that began with scratching late at night when I was trying to fall asleep. I'd hear it soft and slow, like fingernails dragging along the inside of the wall. Not fast, not loud, just steady. Scratch, scratch. I sat up in bed the first time I heard it. My heart was racing. I thought maybe a mouse had gotten into the walls, but it didn't sound like a mouse. It was too careful, too human. The next night, the sound came again. I got out of bed and went into the bathroom. I stood near the shower and pressed my ear to the wall. Silence then, whispering. It was faint. I could barely hear it. I wasn't even sure if it was real, but it sounded like a voice right behind the wall, saying something over and over. I couldn't make out the words. "Hello," I whispered. The voice stopped. I waited. Then I heard it again, but slower and closer. A whisper I couldn't understand, sliding along the tiles like smoke. I backed out of the bathroom and slammed the door. I didn't sleep much that night. When I finally did, the dreams came. In the dream, I was back inside the tunnel, crawling on my hands and knees. The air was wet and heavy. I couldn't see the end. I kept crawling and crawling, and the light behind me disappeared. Then I felt something touch my ankle. I turned round fast. but there was no one there, just the dark dot and the whisper, "Come back." I woke up, shaking, soaked in sweat. I looked at the time. It was 3:12 a.m. I walked to the bathroom door and just stood there. I didn't go in. I didn't want to, but I pressed my ear to the door, and I heard it again. Breathing, long, slow, steady breaths. Not mine. Something was inside the wall, and it was awake. The next morning, I didn't go to work. I sat on the couch all day, listening, watching the bathroom door, waiting for another sound. None came during the day, but as soon as it got dark, the whispers returned, and that awful scratching. I moved the chair back in front of the wall. I even pushed a bookshelf across the door, like that would help. But I knew it didn't matter. It was already in. Somewhere behind the walls, it was moving. And every time I closed my eyes, I dreamed I was crawling again, crawling deeper into something that wanted me back. I told myself I wouldn't go back in, but after 3 nights of scratching, whispering, and those dreams, I gave in. I had to know what was inside. I got a better flashlight, extra batteries, and gloves. I even grabbed a small hammer from the toolbox, just in case. That night, I pushed the chair out of the way, pulled the tape off the tile, and opened the tunnel again. The air coming out was damp. It smelled like wet wood and dust. I turned on the flashlight and crawled inside. It was tighter than I remembered. The tunnel walls brushed against my shoulders. I had to keep my head low to keep from hitting the top. I moved slowly, checking the floor ahead with the light before every step. About 5 feet in, I saw the old shirt again, the one I found last time. I crawled past it. Then the tunnel turned. I froze. That bend wasn't there before. I was sure the tunnel went straight the first time. But now it twisted to the right, like it was growing. I pointed the flashlight down the new path and kept going. The walls were rough. I saw old nails sticking out, bits of wire, torn insulation. I brushed against something sharp and hissed in pain. Pulled my arm back and checked. Just a scratch. But the deeper I went, the weirder it got. The tunnel didn't feel like it belonged in my building anymore. I should have been outside the apartment by now. There shouldn't have been this much space. But it kept going. It curved again, then dropped slightly, like I was heading downward. I stopped and turned the light on the walls. That's when I saw the scratches. Long, thin claw marks dug into the wood on both sides of the tunnel. Not fresh, but not old either. Like someone, or something, had crawled through here many times. I touched one of the marks. It felt deep, too deep. Something strong made those. My hand was shaking as I kept crawling. Then I saw it, something shiny in the dirt ahead. I reached for it and picked it up. It was a mirror, small, round, broken, like the kind you'd carry in your pocket. The glass was cracked, and most of it was missing, but one piece was still there. I tilted it to look. I expected to see my own face. I didn't. The reflection was too dark. Wrong dot, my face looked pale. My eyes were too wide. My mouth didn't move the same way mine did. It smiled when I didn't. I dropped the mirror and backed up fast. My foot hit a board and I heard a crack beneath me. I froze. The wood groaned. Something shifted up ahead. I held my breath and listened. Silence, then dash, tap, tap, tap. From deep in the tunnel, 3 slow taps. I turned and crawled back fast. My elbows scraped the sides. I didn't care. I needed out. I reached the opening and tumbled into the bathroom, gasping for air. I slammed the tile back in place. Then I locked the bathroom door. I sat on the floor for a long time, shaking. I still had the flashlight in my hand, and the scratches on my arm, and in my head I could still see the mirror, still see the face that wasn't mine. I waited 3 days before going back into the tunnel. I didn't want to. I tried to forget about it, but every time I closed my eyes, I saw that mirror again, the face that looked like mine, but wasn't. And I kept thinking about the tunnel turning, about how it went deeper than it should. Something didn't make sense, so I got my flashlight again and opened the hole. I crawled inside, slow and careful. The tunnel still twisted to the right, still sloped downward. I passed the broken mirror. I didn't touch it this time. I just kept going. The air got colder the farther I crawled. My hands were shaking, but I didn't stop. Then I saw it. The tunnel opened up. A room, a full room, hidden deep inside the wall. It wasn't part of the building. It couldn't be. There were no windows, no lights, just one small bulb hanging from the ceiling with a cord. I pulled it. The bulb flickered, then lit up. The room was full of stuff. An old chair, a broken table, piles of children's toys, dolls, cars, blocks, all covered in dust. In one corner, there was a mattress on the floor. No sheets, just a dirty blanket balled up on top. Someone had lived here. There were notebooks everywhere, stacked on the table, shoved under the mattress, piled up against the wall. I picked one up and opened it. The pages were filled with words, but they didn't make sense. The same line over and over again. Don't let it see you. Don't let it see you. Don't let it see you. Another notebook said, it crawls, it waits, it listens. The handwriting got worse the deeper I read. Messy, shaky, like someone was losing their mind. I opened one more. This one was full of drawings. The tunnel, the bathroom, the mirror, then a face, pale, hollow eyes, no mouth, dozens of pages, the same face. I dropped the notebook and backed away. That's when I noticed something else. On the wall, next to the mattress, were marks. Dozens of little scratches, like someone was keeping count of days, maybe hundreds. I stared at the mattress again. It didn't look that old. And then I noticed the corner of the blanket was folded back, like someone had gotten up recently. I whispered, hello, no answer. I stepped back toward the tunnel entrance. Then I saw something that made my chest feel tight. A toothbrush, a blue one, exactly like mine, sitting on a cracked sink in the corner. A sink I hadn't even noticed when I came in. I backed up fast. My foot hit a metal box. I looked down. It was full of nails and screws. And a phone, an old phone. Dusty, dead. But the screen had one photo showing it was blurry. But it looked like someone crawling through a tunnel. Their face was turned away, but I could see their clothes. It was me. I dropped the phone, turned off the light, and crawled back out as fast as I could. I didn't care if I scraped my knees or tore my shirt. I just needed to get out of that room, because someone had lived there. Or maybe someone still did. I should have stopped. After finding that room, I should have sealed the tunnel and left it alone. But I didn't. I needed to know more. I needed to understand what happened down there. So the next night, I went back in. Same flashlight, same tunnel, same crawl. Everything felt tighter, like the walls had shifted. I kept bumping my elbows. The air smelled worse this time, moldy and sour. I reached the room again and pulled the cord. The light flickered, then it turned on. The notebooks were right where I left them. I picked up a new one, a small red one with a rubber band around it. The cover had scratch marks all over it. I opened the first page. Don't trust the voice. That line was written over and over, page after page. Don't trust the voice. Don't trust the voice. Whoever wrote it pressed down hard. Some of the letters cut through the paper. I flipped to the middle. New lines. Stay low. Stay quiet. Stay inside. Stay low. Stay quiet. Stay inside. I looked round the room. There were notebooks everywhere, all filled with the same messages. Some had different handwriting, like more than one person had written them. I stood up and looked at the walls. That's when I saw the words. They were written in black marker, all over the wooden boards. Don't speak when it moves. It knows your voice. The mirror lies. Some lines were scratched into the wall with something sharp. I stepped closer to one corner and saw something that made my skin crawl. A message written in darker ink. No dust on it. No fading. Fresh. Double quotes. Turn around. I froze. The flashlight beam was pointed at the wall. I was facing the corner. The tunnel was behind me. I didn't move. I didn't want to look. My hand shook as I slowly raised the flashlight and pointed it behind me. The tunnel was empty. Nothing there, but I felt it. Something was close. I stood completely still. I didn't breathe. I didn't blink. I listened. Nothing. I slowly stepped back toward the tunnel entrance. Then I heard it. A whisper. Not in the tunnel, right next to my ear. You shouldn't be here. I dropped the notebook. My flashlight flickered. I pointed it all around the room. Nothing moved, but I knew I wasn't alone. I backed into the tunnel. My hands scraped the sides as I crawled. The flashlight beam kept shaking. Halfway out, I heard a sound behind me, thump, not loud, just enough to let me know something had stepped forward. I didn't turn around. I crawled faster. When I reached the bathroom, I pulled myself out and slammed the tile back into place. Then I sat on the floor, trying not to cry. That night, I locked the bathroom door, pushed the dresser in front of it, and left every light in the apartment on. I didn't sleep. I just kept hearing the same words over and over in my head. Turn around, stay low, stay quiet, stay inside, and worst of all, don't trust the voice. After that last trip into the tunnel, I told myself I was done for good. I sealed it. I didn't just push the tile back this time. I covered it with wood and hammered it shut. I used screws, duct tape, anything I could find. Then I moved the dresser in front of it and pushed the bathroom shelf against the door. I wasn't going back in there, but it didn't matter, because whatever was inside the tunnel, it came out. It started the next day. I was in the kitchen pouring cereal when the lights flickered, just for a second. Then again, slower. They went dim like someone was turning a knob up and down. I thought maybe it was just old wiring. But then I saw the hallway light blink. One long flicker, then a short one. It did the same thing again, later that night, almost like a pattern. That's when I heard the noise. Click, like a light switch. But none of the lights turned off. Then came the thump. It sounded like something heavy dropping onto the floor just outside the bathroom. I froze. My bedroom door was open. I could see down the hallway. The bathroom door was shut tight, blocked. By furniture, no one was there, but the air felt different, like something was standing just out of view. I slept on the couch that night with the TV on and a lamp by my side. But sleep didn't help. The next morning, the couch had moved. Not a lot, just a few inches, but I never moved it. I stood there staring at it for a long time, like maybe it would slide again while I watched. It didn't. I went to the bathroom mirror to splash water on my face. I looked up at my reflection. It looked tired, eyes heavy, skin pale. I frowned. The reflection, didn't it, just stared back. Then, very slowly, it smiled. I stepped back fast and almost tripped over the trash can. I ran out of the bathroom and shut the door. I didn't go back in 4 hours. That night, I tried to act normal. I made dinner, watched something dumb on TV, tried not to think about the mirror. Then I heard a noise behind me, soft, like paper sliding across a table. I turned around. A notebook was on the floor, one of their notebooks. I never brought one out of the tunnel, but it was sitting by the couch. I picked it up. The pages were torn, but on one of them, I saw a sentence I hadn't read before. It saw you. I dropped the notebook. I stood still and listened. The pipes weren't dripping. There was no scratching in the walls, but I could feel something in the room, watching me, waiting. I whispered, "What do you want?" No answer, just the faint sound of breathing behind me. I didn't turn around. I walked backward into my room, shut the door and leaned against it. I thought sealing the tunnel would end it, but I think I was wrong. I think something came through, and now it's in here with me. It was around 2 a.m. when I heard it again. The whisper. I was in bed with the lights on, TV still playing. I'd been too scared to turn anything off. I wasn't even trying to sleep anymore. But then I heard that sound. Soft, slippery, like someone talking through water. I sat up and listened. It was coming from the bathroom. I didn't want to go in, I really didn't. But the whisper was getting louder, like it was calling for me. Not yelling, just waiting. I grabbed my flashlight and crept down the hall. The dresser was still in front of the bathroom door, blocking it. I pushed it aside, slowly, listening the whole time. The whispering never stopped. I opened the door. The light was off inside. I aimed my flashlight toward the tub. The whisper was coming from the drain. I stepped in, heart pounding, and leaned closer. The drain in the shower was shaking slightly, like something was moving beneath it. I dropped to my knees and tilted my head so I could hear better. The voice was clear now, and it sounded like me, not exactly. It was my voice, but thinner, slower, like it had been stretched out. It whispered, "Come back down." I pulled away fast and hit the wall. The flashlight dropped from my hand and rolled onto the floor, flickering. I stayed still. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. Then the voice spoke again. "You left me there." I looked at the wall, at the sealed tile where the tunnel had been. Water was dripping down from it. Slow, thick drops. The wood I used to cover the hole was damp. A wet stain was spreading across it. I whispered, "No." But the voice from the drain whispered back, "Finish what you started." I backed toward the door. My feet were wet. The bathroom floor had a thin layer of water now, leaking out from the wall. The voice kept talking, over and over. "Come back down. You left the door open. You brought it here." I ran out and slammed the door behind me. I didn't even move the dresser back. I just left it wide open because I didn't want to touch the room anymore. Back in my bed, I sat holding the flashlight. I could still hear the voice through the walls. Not loud, just steady my voice. But wrong, it kept saying things I didn't understand. We're not done, you're not finished. I pressed my hands over my ears. It didn't help, and the worst part, a small part of me wanted to listen, wanted to go back, to finish it, to crawl one more time into the dark, like something deep inside me remembered it, like I had always been there, and just forgot. I didn't sleep that night. I don't think I ever really do anymore. I just wait for the voice, because every night now it speaks a little louder, and I think it's getting closer. I don't know what's real anymore. I try to stay calm. I try to act normal, but little things keep changing. This morning, I found 2 toothbrushes in the holder. One was mine, blue, old, worn down. The other one was red, new, still wet. I live alone. I picked it up, looked at it, then threw it in the trash. I didn't say anything. I just walked away. A few hours later, it was back in the holder. Same red toothbrush, same spot. I didn't touch it again. I checked my phone next, just to distract myself. I looked through my photo gallery. I thought maybe I'd find something from before all this started. Something normal, but I found pictures I didn't take. They were dark and blurry, just flashes of walls, wood, shadows. One picture was of the tunnel, a shot from deep inside, like someone had crawled in and looked back toward the bathroom. The light from the flashlight was faint, like it was dying. The photo made my stomach twist. I never took that picture. I kept scrolling. There were more. One of the room with the mattress, another of the broken mirror, and then a picture of me sleeping on my couch. I don't remember taking it. I don't remember letting anyone in. The door was locked. The chain was on, but the picture was there. My eyes were closed. My mouth was open slightly, like I was breathing heavy. The TV in the background was playing the same movie I watched 3 nights ago. I dropped the phone. I didn't even pick it up. I just sat on the floor and stared at the bathroom door. It was open. I never leave it open now, but today, it was just wide open, like something inside was waiting. I stood up, slowly, walked toward it. My legs felt heavy, like I was underwater. Inside, the lights were off, but I could hear something dripping again. The sound I thought was gone had come back. I stepped into the bathroom. The sink was dry. The tub was dry. The sound was coming from the wall, from behind the tiles. I sat down in the tub and leaned back. I stared at the wall where I first found the hollow spot, the one I sealed, the one I covered with wood and tape and screws. It looked normal again now, like nothing ever happened, but I knew what was behind it. I heard the voice again, not loud, just a whisper from the drain. "Come back," I whispered. "I don't want to." The drain replied, "You already did." I looked down. The tile was already loose. I don't remember pulling at it, but it was half out of the wall, like my hand had done it without asking me. I stared at my fingers. They were dirty, dusty, like I'd been crawling again. I reached forward and slowly pulled the tile free. Behind it was black dot. No sound now. No voice, just dark. I sat there for a long time, holding the tile in my lap, and I whispered, "Is this real?" No one answered, but I knew what came next, because the apartment is hollow, and once you go deep enough, you don't ever come back out. I got an email from my wife. She died last month. It was her email. Her words, her voice in the attached audio. But she'd been buried for weeks, and the message had just been sent. It's been 1 month since my wife died. People think that's enough time to move on. It's not. I still can't breathe right when I wake up and realize she's not next to me. Her things are still here. Some of her clothes are folded in drawers. Her shampoo is in the shower. I haven't touched anything. I can't. The house is quiet now. Too quiet. I sleep on the couch most nights. Our bedroom feels wrong without her in it. I walk in sometimes, just to look around. Then I leave. I don't turn on the light. There's a box by the hallway I never opened. It's full of her old books and cards, the ones she wanted to donate. I can't even bring myself to tape it shut. The funeral was simple. She didn't want anything big. No speeches, just a few people, mostly her side of the family. I didn't speak. I couldn't. My throat locked up. She wore the dress she loved, the blue one with the tiny white flowers. I stood by her casket and waited for her to breathe again. Part of me believed she would, but she didn't. People said, "I'm sorry," and she was wonderful, and you'll get through this. I nodded a lot. I don't remember what I said back. My hands were shaking the whole time. After the funeral, I went home alone. I sat at the kitchen table until the sun went down. Then I turned off the light and just sat in the dark dot. No music, no phone, nothing. Just me and the silence. She died in a car crash on the way home from work. I got the call at 3:17 p.m. I remember that number exactly because I looked at my phone and thought, this isn't right. It's too early for bad news. But it was her. They said she died on impact. I didn't see her body. I wasn't allowed to. I think that's what makes it harder, not knowing for sure if she was really gone. Sometimes I still expect her to walk through the door and say, "What are you doing in the dark?" I even think I hear her sometimes. Just little things, a cough, the floor creaking, the click of the lamp on her side of the bed. I tell myself it's just my mind playing tricks. I've kept her email account open. I don't know why. Maybe I think if I don't close it, she's still out there somewhere, still sending messages, still alive, I scroll through old emails sometimes. She used to message me every day, dumb stuff, like don't forget the cat food or I miss you already. One of the last ones just said, get home safe, I love you. I read that one every night. It's still starred in my inbox, still unread. I don't delete anything. I can't, because the second I delete her, she's really gone, and I don't know if I can handle that. It was almost midnight. I couldn't sleep again. I was on the couch, scrolling through nothing on my laptop. I wasn't really reading anything. I just didn't want to go to bed. Not in that empty room. Not without her. The house was dark except for the screen in front of me. The only sound was the buzz of the fridge in the kitchen. Then I heard a ping. An email. I looked at the corner of the screen. The little red icon popped up. One new message. I clicked it without thinking. Then I stopped. The name on the screen made my stomach twist. Sarah. It was her name. My wife's name. I stared at it for a long time. I thought maybe it was someone else, a spam email, or a hacker using her old account. But the email address was the same one she always used. Even the weird numbers she picked when we first made. The account I opened the message. There was no subject, no signature, just 2 words. Are you there? That was it. Nothing else. I didn't move. My hands got cold. I just sat there, staring at the screen. At first I told myself it was a trick, some kind of scam. Maybe someone stole her info. Maybe it was one of those creepy spam bots that finds old accounts and sends weird junk to scare people. But this didn't feel random. Her name was spelled right, the way she always typed it, lowercase s. No periods, no fancy stuff, and the words, they sounded like her. We used to message like that. Short stuff. Are you there? Where are you? I'm home. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I didn't know what to type. I didn't even know if I should type anything. I whispered, Sarah. But there was no sound, just the fridge humming in the background. I checked the email details. It said the message came in just 3 minutes ago, from her exact email address. Same as always. I opened our old chat history. I still had it saved. Last message from her was over a month ago. Be safe. I'll see you tonight. She never made it home. Now I was looking at a new message, sent. After she died, I looked around the room. Nothing was moving. No shadows. No weird sounds. But it felt like someone was watching. I clicked block sender. Then I clicked delete. I closed the laptop and sat there, not blinking. I waited for the ping again. It didn't come, not that night, but I couldn't shake the feeling that it was her, or something that wanted me to think it was her. I didn't sleep at all, and deep down, I knew something was wrong. This wasn't spam. This wasn't a trick, because that message felt real. Too real. I didn't reply. After I got that first email from Sarah's account, I blocked it right away. I deleted it. I even cleared my trash folder. I told myself it was over, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. I barely slept that night. I kept checking my inbox, even though I told myself not to. I turned off my phone and turned it back on 5 times, just to be sure. Nothing new. The next morning, I made coffee and sat in front of my laptop. My hands were shaking. I didn't even want to open my inbox, but I did, and there it was. Another message, same address, same name, same lowercase s in her name. The subject line this time said, "Why aren't you answering me?" I just stared at it. I didn't click it right away. I leaned back in my chair and said out loud, "No, nope, not doing this." But I clicked it anyway. There was one line in the message: "I'm trying, are you still there?" And under that, a photo. I didn't want to open it. My stomach felt tight, but I did. It was a picture of our old cabin, the one in the woods, the place we used to go every fall. She loved it there. The photo showed the front of the cabin. Our old red chairs were still on the porch. The screen door was half open. The grass looked overgrown, but that wasn't what made me feel sick. Scared me was that I knew that photo. I'd seen it before, because she took it. On our last trip, it was never posted anywhere. It wasn't online. We kept it on her phone. She said she liked having something just for us. So how did it show up now? I went to her phone, the one I kept in my nightstand drawer. I turned it on. It still had some battery left. I opened the photo album. I scrolled to the end. The picture was there. Same angle, same porch, same everything. I held her phone in one hand and stared at my laptop with the other. Someone had sent me a photo, only she had. I whispered, "Is this real?" I checked the email again. The timestamp said it was sent at 3:03 a.m. I was awake at that time. I remember. I was lying in bed, staring at the ceiling. I would have heard something, a ping, a buzz, anything, but I didn't. The message just APPEAREDI. Didn't know what to do. I didn't reply. Again, instead. I blocked the address a second time. Then I turned off the laptop. I turned off her phone. I shoved both under the couch cushions and just sat on the floor. For a long time, I didn't move. I didn't cry. I didn't even breathe right. I just kept thinking about the picture and how nobody else could have sent it. Only her. Only Sarah. And if that was true, then maybe she wasn't gone. Not completely. Not yet. I couldn't take it anymore. After the second email, the one with the cabin photo, I needed answers. I told myself it was some kind of trick, that maybe someone hacked her account. Maybe one of her old contacts got in somehow, but it didn't feel like that. It felt like her. So I opened my laptop again and went to her email login. It was still protected. Same password. Same two-step check. I typed in the password she always used, a mix of our wedding date and her favorite, flower. I remembered it because I helped her set it up. It still worked. Then it asked for a code from her old phone. I had the phone. I grabbed it, turned it on, and waited. It took a minute, but the code showed up. I typed it in. Now I was inside. Her inbox, the last login said, "Unknown device, logged in, 3:03 a.m. Same time, the second message came in. The IP address looked weird. Not local. Not from anywhere near us. I clicked the sent folder. There were 2 emails, both sent to me. I checked the drafts next. Nothing there. Everything else looked normal. Old stuff from work. Shopping receipts. Travel plans from last year. But then I opened a folder she used for personal notes. A folder I didn't know about until now. Inside were saved emails. Some were things she never sent. Some were things she sent to herself. Like reminders or thoughts. That's when I found the joke. A stupid little thing we used to say. If I get hit by a bus, remember the bananas. It was a dumb inside joke. One time we went on a trip and forgot to pack food, except for bananas. We laughed about it for years. She wrote that line in one of her saved drafts, and the same exact line was in the third email I got from her, one I opened just before checking. Her account: "If I get hit by a bus, remember the bananas." I froze. I hadn't told anyone about that joke. No one else knew it. Not her friends, not her family. Just me and her. I opened the email again and stared at the sentence. It wasn't just the words, it was the way she typed them. She always used lowercase, no periods. She always wrote lol at the end, even when it wasn't that funny. This message had all of that. It felt like her. I leaned back in the chair and whispered, how would anyone else know that? There was no answer, just the soft hum of the laptop. I checked the security log again. The last login didn't come from her phone, or my computer, or anywhere nearby. It was just labeled, device, unknown, location, no city, no IP, nothing, like it came from nowhere, or from somewhere not real. I shut the laptop. I felt sick. This wasn't a prank. It wasn't a hack. It wasn't someone playing games with me. Whoever, whatever, sent those emails. They didn't just guess. They knew her. And now they were talking to me. The emails didn't stop. Every day there was a new one. Always from her account. Always written like she was really talking to me. At first, they were short. Are you there? I miss you. It's so dark. I didn't answer. I couldn't. My hands would shake too much just opening them. But then they started getting personal. Really personal. One email said, "Do you remember the rain that day? I did. It rained the day she died. She was driving home in the storm. The radio was playing some song she liked. One of those soft, sad songs she always had on her playlists." The next line in the email was, "The song was Winter Light." I was humming it. I froze when I read that because that was the song. I told the cops about it after the crash. Told them I heard it when I got to the car. It was still playing on a loop when I opened the door. But I never told anyone else. Not even her parents. It was too painful. That same email ended with, "You were crying so loud, I thought the glass would break." She was talking about when I found her when I ran to the car and saw her inside. I fell on my knees and screamed. Nobody knew that. Nobody could know that. I stared at the screen for a long time. I didn't cry. I couldn't. I just felt cold. The next day, I got another. One, "Why did you leave me?" That was the whole message. Just that one line. I whispered, "I didn't leave you." But the emails didn't care what I said. More kept coming. I was still breathing. You didn't check my pulse. I wasn't dead yet. None of that was true. She was gone when I found her, wasn't she? I told myself that over and over. The doctors said it. The police said it. Everyone said it. But the emails kept twisting it, making me doubt, making me wonder. I opened another one. This time, she wrote, "It's cold here. I can't see anything, but I hear things. Whispers, they don't sound human." That one made me drop my phone. I left it on the floor for hours. When I finally picked it up again, there was a new message waiting. "You said you wouldn't let me be alone." That line broke something in me. I remembered saying that to her once, when we were laying in bed after her mum passed away. She was scared of being alone after death. I held her hand and promised, "You'll never be alone." Now, it felt like I'd broken that promise, and maybe she was angry. I didn't answer the messages. I didn't reply to a single one, but I couldn't stop reading them. Every time one came in, I opened it right away. Like I needed to. Like I had to. Even though her words were changing, they didn't feel like love, notes anymore. They felt like warnings, or blame, like something was waiting on the other side of the screen, watching, and now it wanted me to feel what she felt, cold, alone, forgotten, and worse. It wanted me to remember what I did, or didn't do. I thought her old email was shut down after she died. I figured it would lock itself, or just fade away. But one night, I logged in again, not her. Main one, the old one. The one she used years ago. Just to check, it still worked. Same password. Same inbox. And right away, I saw something strange. Last active, 2 hours ago. I hadn't touched it in months. No one else should even know the login. But someone had been in there. Recently, my heart started pounding. I clicked into her inbox. Not much was there. A few old emails from stores and websites. Some unread junk. Nothing scary. Then I checked the sent folder. Empty. I moved to trash. Nothing important. Then I clicked on the drafts folder. It said, Drafts 36. I blinked. 30-6. That didn't make sense. Sarah didn't leave unsent messages. She always finished what she was writing. I opened the folder. Every single draft was addressed to me. Subject lines like, I can't sleep here. Do you remember me? Don't let them take me. I opened one. It started like a letter. Hi babe. I don't know how long I've been gone. I don't feel right. I keep thinking I'm still in the car. But everything outside the window is black. I scrolled down. I miss you, but I'm not alone. Something else is here. Another one was messier. No greeting. Just scrambled words, like she typed fast and didn't fix anything. I can't wake up. I keep screaming, but it's like screaming into a pillow. Why don't you answer? Why can't I move? The next one chilled me to my bones. It just said, I saw the door. That was it. No greeting, no sign-off. Just those 4 words. I stared at the screen. I whispered, what door? Another draft had more. There's a door in the dark. It's not made of wood. It's part of the air, but it moves when you stare at it too long. I think it's where they come from. I scrolled through more drafts. Some were broken up, like the keys had been smashed. Some had random strings of letters. One just said, don't open your inbox tonight. I slammed the laptop shut. I backed away from the table. My skin felt tight. My chest hurt. Who was writing? Those was someone using her account to scare me. Or was it really her? Trying to say something she couldn't send. Trying to talk to me from wherever she was. I waited 10 minutes before opening the laptop. Again, the drafts folder was still full, but now the number had changed. Drafts 37, a new one had appeared. It said, he's reading now. That was it. No typing, no from, no timestamp. Just that, I didn't touch anything else. I turned the laptop off. I unplugged it. I sat on the couch for the rest of the night, staring at the dark screen. I didn't check again until morning, and when I finally did, the folder had 3-8. I did something I swore I wouldn't do. I replied, I was tired. I was scared. I hadn't slept in 2 nights. I kept thinking about those draft emails, about the one that said, he's reading now. I just wanted it to stop, so I opened a blank message and typed, "If it's really you, prove it." I hit send. The second I did, I felt sick. Like I opened a door I was never supposed to touch. For the next few hours, nothing happened. No new messages, no sounds, no weird feelings. But I didn't feel better. I sat on the couch with her phone in my lap. The one I still kept charged. I stared at it, waiting for something. Then around 2:18 a.m., I got an email. Not to my inbox, to her phone. Her email account. One I hadn't touched since logging in. The subject said, "You asked." No text in the message. Just one file, a voice. Recording, I didn't want to play it. But I did. I turned the volume low and hit play. At first it was quiet. Then I heard breathing, slow, shaky breathing, like someone trying not to cry. It didn't sound fake. It didn't sound like a prank. It sounded real. And worse, it sounded familiar. It sounded like Sarah. Then I heard her whisper, "You left me in the dark." My hands went cold. The message ended. Just silence. I dropped the phone. It slid under the couch. I didn't even try to get it. I stood up, walked to the kitchen, and grabbed a glass of water. My head was spinning. I told myself it could have been a sick joke. Someone using an old voice clip. Maybe AI. Maybe a recording from her voicemail. But no. That wasn't any old clip. That was new. And I knew it because I heard something else in the background. Something that made my chest tighten me. My voice, I was crying. It was from the night of the accident, when I opened the car door and saw her. I had broken down, screaming her name, saying, "Please wake up, please wake up." That sound was in the background of the audio. How could someone record that? No one else was there. Not until the ambulance came. No one had a camera. No one had a mic, unless she heard me. From wherever she is now, I turned off all the lights and sat on the floor, holding my knees. Then I heard it again, but not from the phone, from inside. The house, from the hallway, a soft whisper, "You left me in the dark." I stood up fast. "Sarah," I called out, "is that you?" No answer. I walked to the hallway. Nothing there. But then I heard it again, right by my ear. "You left me." I turned around. No one. I backed into the living room. My heart was racing. I whispered, "I'm sorry." Then the light in the bathroom flickered. I didn't go in. I just sat on the couch and stared at the hallway. I kept hearing the same line, over and over, soft, sad, like she was stuck in a loop, like she was trying to remind me, again and again, of what I did, of what I didn't do. I never should have replied. I made a mistake, and now she won't stop. The emails started changing. They didn't feel like Sarah anymore. At first, they were full of her voice, her jokes, her little habits. Now they felt wrong. Twisted, the first strange one, came in at 3:11. A.M. No subject, just one sentence. "They see what I see," no capital letters, no punctuation. That part still felt like her. But then I got another, just minutes later. Same sender, same timestamp. This one said, "They're watching you through me." I read it out loud by accident. As soon as I said the words, I heard something creak in the hallway. I froze. It was 3:14 a.m. I hadn't moved from the couch in hours. I didn't even have the lights on, just the laptop screen glowing in the dark. I listened, nothing. Then my email dinged again. Another message. This one had no words, just a subject line. It's not just me, I opened it. There was one thing inside, a strange symbol. I didn't know what it meant. A black circle with sharp lines sticking out. It almost looked like an eye. Below it, in small red text, door dot opening. Now I stared at the screen. Then, from the back of the house, my bedroom door creaked open, slow, heavy, like someone was pushing it with their hand. I stood up fast. My chair tipped over behind me. Who's there? I shouted no answer, but I heard footsteps, soft, barefoot, walking down the hallway toward me. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight dot. Nothing, just the hallway, empty. But the air felt thick. My ears were ringing. Another email came in. Subject, don't look behind you, body. They get angry when you see them. I spun around. No one there. I was breathing hard. My hands were cold. I shut the laptop and grabbed my keys. I was ready to leave, go to a hotel, go anywhere else. But as I reached for the doorknob, it turned on its own. I stepped back. The door didn't open. It just moved slightly, like someone on the other side wanted to come in, but changed their mind. Or maybe they didn't need to come in, because they were already inside. I stood still for a long time. Then I slowly opened the door and looked outside. The street was empty, no wind, no cars, just dead silence. I closed the door again and locked it. Another email came in. This time it was full of letters and numbers, random like a code. Some of it looked like another language. Some of the words repeated, dark, dark, dark. She's not alone. Dark, dark. He watches. We see. I backed away from the screen. Then the lights in the kitchen flicked off. I didn't move. Then one more message came in. The subject line said, "Stop reading." I didn't. I opened it. It said, "Your eyes are his now." And after that, no more emails. Just the sound of a door opening again from inside the house. I hadn't slept in 2 days. I stopped checking the emails. I was too scared. The last ones didn't feel human anymore. Symbols, warnings. That message, your eyes, are his now. I shut everything down. Phone, laptop, WI-V. But today, something made me turn it all back on. I don't know why. Maybe I needed to see if it was over. Or maybe I knew it wasn't. When the screen came on, there was one new email, just one, from her subject, "Come home." I stared at it for a long time. My hand was shaking. I clicked it. There was a message and a file attached. The message said, "I found a way back, but I need you here. It only works from the cabin." I didn't even read it twice. I clicked on the file. It was a video. It showed the front of our old cabin. Same place from the photo she sent before. But this time, something was different. The camera wasn't still. It was moving, like someone or something was holding it and walking slowly toward the front door. The porch creaked. The door opened on its own. The camera stepped inside. The lights were off, but I could see just enough. Everything was where we left it. The old couch. The picture on the wall. Her blanket folded on the chair. Then the camera turned toward the back hallway. That hallway led to the basement. It walked forward. Each step made my chest feel tighter. When it reached the basement door, it paused. Then the door creaked open. Darkness. That's when the video stopped. No sound, no voice, just black. I sat still. I didn't think. I didn't question. I just packed a small bag and grabbed my keys. The cabin was 3 hours away. I didn't care. I drove like I was in a dream. The whole way there, I kept hearing her voice in my head. Come home. It was the same way she used to say it in real life. Soft, like a whisper. I reached the cabin just after midnight. Everything looked the same. The trees, the driveway, the porch, but the front door was wide open. I left my car running. I stepped inside. No lights, just shadows. I stood in the doorway and whispered, "Sarah." Nothing. I walked into the living room. It was cold and dusty, but untouched. Like no one had been there for years, except something had. Because the hallway light was on, and the basement door was open all the way. I didn't walk to it, not yet. I stood there, staring at the dark stairwell. I could hear something. Down there, not footsteps, not voices, just breathing, like someone was waiting. And then, from the basement, I heard her. "You came." I dropped my bag. I took one step forward, then another. Each step down felt heavy, like something was pulling me in, like I wasn't in control anymore. I reached the bottom, and the door behind me shut hard. That's when I knew she found a way back, but not alone. The basement was cold, damp. I couldn't see anything at first, but I could feel the walls close around me. The stairs creaked as I stepped down. My hand was tight on the rail. Each step echoed. The air smelled old, like wet dirt and dust. I reached the bottom. It was pitch black. "Sarah," I whispered. No answer. I pulled out my phone. The screen flickered, glitching. The battery showed 1%, even though I'd charged it. Then a new email popped up, from Sarah. Subject, asterisk, "You're here." That was all it said. I stood in the dark, holding the phone. My hands were shaking. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I should have. I didn't know." Something moved, not loud, just soft, like bare feet on concrete. I turned toward the sound. The phone screen started to dim. I backed up. "Sarah," I tried again. "Is that you?" I didn't hear her voice, but I felt something in front of me, in the dark, just a few feet away. Then I heard breathing, slow, heavy, right in front of me. I raised the phone again. The screen was black now, but it buzzed in my hand. Another message. I didn't open it. I couldn't see the screen anyway. Then something stepped forward. I didn't see its face. I didn't even see a shape. But I knew it wasn't just Sarah. Whatever had been talking to me, mailing, me watching me, it was with her. Or maybe it was her, and maybe I'd brought it here. Or it had brought me. I opened my mouth to speak, but the words stuck. Then something touched my chest, soft, like fingers. The phone slipped from my hand and hit the floor. The screen lit up one last time. A new message was there, from Sarah's email. Subject, "Nonbody, I never left." Then the screen cracked, and everything went dark. No sound, no light, just me and her, and whatever came back with her. The story ends with a screen, an email inbox. Only one message is there, still unread. I never left. I was hired to watch a house that doesn't appear in daylight. It was there when the sun went down. Windows, lights, a front door that never opened, but by morning, the house was gone again. I didn't have a job. I didn't have much of anything, really. My rent was late, my fridge was empty, and I was getting desperate. That's when I saw the ad. It was on one of those sketchy local websites. Black background, plain white text. Overnight house-sitting job. Cash only. Must arrive after sunset. No experience needed. I clicked it. There wasn't much info. Just a few lines and an email address. The weirdest part was the last line. House is not visible during the day. Do not come early. I laughed a little when I read that. I figured it was just some weird old guy who liked being dramatic. I didn't care. I needed money. So I sent an email, told them I was available. A few hours later, I got a reply. No name, just this. Agreed. You will arrive at 7:15 p.m. Stay inside until sunrise. Do not leave early. Payment will be left on the counter. No phone use inside. Do not try to come during the day. There was an address. That was it. No phone number. No other instructions. Honestly, I should have backed out right then, but I didn't. I thought, whatever. It's just one night. How bad can it be? I looked up the address on my map app. It showed a small patch of land way out past the highway. Middle of nowhere, just trees and dirt roads. The satellite view didn't show a house, just a clearing, but I figured maybe it was new. Maybe Google hadn't updated it. Or maybe the guy just wanted privacy. Some people are like that. So I packed a backpack, brought a flashlight, a snack, and a book. I even left a note on my kitchen table, just in case something went wrong. It said, "Gone for a house-sitting job. Back in the morning." I left my place around 6:30 p.m. The drive took almost an hour. The sun was already starting to set when I turned off the main road. The dirt path was rough. Trees on both sides. No streetlights. I kept checking my phone for the map, but the signal dropped to 0. No bars, no internet. At exactly 7:14 p.m., I parked in a wide, empty clearing. I looked around, no house. I double-checked the address, got out of the car, walked around. Nothing, just grass and trees. I started to feel stupid. Maybe I'd been scammed. But then I looked again. and I saw something. Changing. The air shimmered, like heat waves on a road. Then shapes started to form. Dark lines. A roof, windows, a front door. A house was appearing right in front of me. And that's when I realized this wasn't just a job. This was something else. Something I didn't understand. But I walked toward the house anyway, because I needed the money, and because I was too curious to turn back. I got to the spot just before 7:15 p.m. There was nothing there, no house, no driveway, just an empty field with tall grass and some trees at the edge. I looked around, confused, checked the address again. I was in the right place. I stepped out of the car and waited. Everything felt wrong, too quiet, not peaceful quiet. The kind that makes your ears ring. No bugs, no birds, just empty stillness. I walked around the clearing. My shoes crunched on dry grass. I didn't see anything even close to a house. No lights, no wires, no mailbox, just more trees. I was starting to think someone was messing with me, that I'd driven all this way for nothing. But then, something changed. I looked up and saw the light in the sky fading. The sun was dipping below the trees. The colors were turning gray, and that's when it happened. Right in front of me. The air started to move, like heat rising off pavement, wavy, blurry. At first I thought it was just my eyes playing tricks, but the waves got stronger, and then I saw lines forming tall shapes, dark and sharp. A roof, a wall, a porch. A house. It didn't appear all at once. It came in pieces, bit by bit, like it was slowly being drawn in front of me. Within seconds, it was standing there. A tall, old house. Grey wood, black windows, like something from a black and white photo. A dead tree beside it. Wooden steps leading to a front door that looked way too heavy. I just stared. It hadn't been there 5 minutes ago. Now it looked like it had been sitting there for 100 years. I walked toward it slowly. My heart was beating hard. I didn't even think about running. I just felt pulled in. The house didn't look abandoned. It wasn't falling apart, but it also didn't look alive. There were no lights on inside, no sound. I stepped onto the porch. The wood groaned under my feet. I reached for the doorknob. It wasn't locked. The door opened on the first try. Inside, it was even stranger. The air felt heavy, like no one had breathed in there for years. It smelled clean but old, like books and dust and something sweet. Underneath, I stepped into the hallway. Everything was neat, too neat. A small table with a lamp unplugged. A coat rack with no coats. A clock stuck at 2:39. The hands weren't moving. I called out, "Hello," no answer. I walked deeper in. The living room had 2 old chairs and a couch, all facing a fireplace that had ashes in it, like someone had used it not long ago. There were framed photos on the wall, but when I looked closer, the faces were blank, like someone had wiped them off. Heads with no eyes, no mouths. I turned away fast. The kitchen was spotless. A fridge humming softly. A note on the counter. Stay the night. Do not leave before sunrise. Payment will be here in the morning. That was it. I walked back to the hallway and stood there for a minute. I was inside now. The door was still open behind me. Part of me wanted to leave, but I didn't, because I still didn't believe what I was seeing. A house that wasn't there before sunset. Faces missing from photos. A quiet that felt too deep. I told myself I'd just stay the night. Just one night, and then I'd be done. But I couldn't shake the feeling that the house had been waiting for me. I closed the front door and stood there, listening. It was quiet, too quiet. No hum of traffic, no wind, just the soft tick of a clock somewhere deep inside the house. I pulled out my phone to check the time. No signal, no Wi-Fi either. That was weird. I had at least 2 bars right. Before I walked in, I even stepped back outside to check. The moment I left the house, my phone buzzed and showed service again. I stepped back inside. Signal gone. I laughed a little, but it wasn't funny. I just said, okay, I guess I'm off the grid tonight. I walked through the house slowly. Room by room, the living room was the first one I checked again. 2 old chairs, 1 couch, a coffee table with nothing on it. The fireplace looked used but cold. On the wall above it was a large photo in a gold frame. It showed a family standing in front of this same house, but their faces were blurry, like someone had smeared them with fingers. I leaned in closer. I couldn't tell if it was damage, or if they were just like that when it was taken. I moved on. The hallway had 3 doors. One was locked. I jiggled the handle, but it didn't budge. No keyhole either, just smooth wood and a rusty knob. The second door led to a small bathroom. The mirror was dusty. When I wiped it with my hand, I saw something scratched into the corner of the glass. Don't listen. I stared at it for a second. Then I left the bathroom and checked the last door. It was a bedroom, old-style bed, wooden dresser, and a small lamp. The lamp worked when I turned the knob. Yellow light filled the room. I saw a phone sitting on the nightstand. Not a cell phone, an old rotary one with a cord. I picked up the receiver. No dial tone. I looked at the dresser next. 1 drawer opened. Inside was a stack of yellowed papers, handwritten letters. I started to read the first one. It said, "To whoever stays here next, the house is not empty. Don't open the door at the end of the hall. Don't trust what you hear. You'll want to look, but don't." I stopped reading. I put the letter back and shut the drawer. I didn't know what kind of joke this was, but it didn't feel funny. I checked the kitchen again. Everything was clean, but weird. Every drawer I opened had the same things. 1 spoon, 1 fork, 1 knife. Nothing more. The fridge was on, but completely empty. Then I noticed something carved into the wood around the kitchen window. It looked like symbols, circles with lines through them. Tiny triangles stacked on each other. I rubbed one with my thumb, thinking maybe it was just damage. But it wasn't random. It was carved deep, like someone meant to leave it there. I checked the other windows, same symbols. Each one had something carved near it, like someone was trying to keep something out or in. I went back to the living room and sat on the couch. I didn't turn on the TV. I don't think it even worked. The plug was cut. I looked at the old clock on the wall. It said 11:46. I opened the bedroom door again just to peek. The clock in there said 3:22. The one in the kitchen, 7:01. None of them matched. None of them moved. I sat back down and tried to relax, but I kept hearing things. Small things, creaks, clicks, soft thuds, and then faint whispers. I sat up straight. They were coming from the hallway, from the direction of the locked door. I stood up and listened. I didn't move, just listened hard. The whispering stopped. I waited, then it started again. I took one slow step forward. The sound stopped again. I whispered, "Hello." Nothing. I turned around and sat back down. That's when the whisper came again. But this time, it was closer, like it was right behind the couch. I spun around, no one there. I stood up and backed away slowly. My hands were shaking. I told myself, maybe the house just creaked. Maybe old pipes made weird sounds. Maybe my ears were playing tricks on me. But deep down, I didn't believe that something was in here with me, and it knew I was listening. I left the house as soon as the sun came up. I didn't sleep much. I just sat on the couch all night, listening to sounds I couldn't explain. Every time I closed my eyes, I thought I heard whispering again, or footsteps upstairs, even though I never went up there. When the sky finally turned light, I grabbed my bag and got out. The house looked normal in the morning light. Still old, still quiet, still standing. I got in my car and drove home. I didn't look back. That day, I kept thinking about it. The faces in the photos, the symbols on the windows, the clocks that didn't move. I thought maybe I had imagined some of it. Maybe I was just tired. But something about that house stuck in my head. It didn't feel like a normal place. Around noon, I decided to drive back just to see it again. I told myself I was curious. I wanted to see what it looked like during the day. So I drove the same road, same path, same turnoff. It all looked the same until I reached the clearing. The house was gone. I stopped the car and got out. I stood in the same spot as the night before, but now there was nothing there. Just tall grass and the same old trees. I walked in a full circle. No porch, no steps, no chimney. I even checked the exact spot where I had parked my car. There was no sign of anything. I pulled out my phone and opened the map. The GPS showed I was in the right place, but the satellite view still showed only trees and dirt, no house. I checked again and again. I zoomed in. I reloaded it. Still nothing. That's when I started to panic a little. Was I losing my mind? I opened my email and sent a message to the address from before. I came back to check the house. It's not here. What's going on? I waited. 10 minutes later, I got a reply. You were not supposed to return during the day. That was it. No name, no greeting, no explanation. I wrote back, what is this place? Was the house real? I don't understand. Another reply came. Return. Tonight at 7:15 p.m. You will be paid double. Do not ask more questions. I stared at the screen. Double the money. A part of me wanted to say no. I wanted to forget the whole thing. Something about that house felt wrong, but I also needed the cash, and a small part of me wanted to know more. I sat in my car for a long time, just staring at the empty field. Then I put the keys in the ignition, and I drove home. I already knew I was going back, even if I didn't want to, even if I was scared. I came back that night at 7:15, just like before. I parked in the same spot. The house showed up again the same way, slowly, like it was coming out of thin air. No part of me believed it was normal anymore. But I walked up the steps anyway and went inside. Same couch, same photos with blank faces, same clocks stuck at the wrong times. But one thing was different. The door at the end of the hall, the one that was locked the first night, was now open. It wasn't wide open, just cracked a little, enough for me to notice. I stood there for a moment, just staring at it. I didn't want to go near it. I told myself I wouldn't, but after a few minutes, I moved closer. I pushed the door open with one finger. It creaked, slow and loud. Inside was a small bedroom. The walls were blue, but faded. The ceiling had glowed the dark stars that looked like they hadn't lit up in years. There was a twin bed with a thin blanket, a wooden dresser, and a toy chest in the corner. The floor was covered in toys, but they were old, not normal toys, not stuff you'd find at a store today. These looked like they came from another time. Metal cars, cloth dolls with button eyes, tiny wooden blocks with letters carved into them. And then I saw the rocking horse. It sat by the window, facing the wall. One of its legs was broken. Its painted eyes were scratched off. As I stepped into the room, the rocking horse moved. It rocked forward, then back. Forward again. I froze. I hadn't touched it. There was no wind. Nothing around it moved. It just rocked. I backed up toward the door. My hands were sweating. Then I saw something under the bed. A book. I knelt down and pulled it out. It was small and brown, with a leather cover and a strap holding it shut. A name was written on the front. Clara. I opened it. It was a diary. The first page had neat handwriting, a little girl's writing. The dates were from years ago, way before I was born. She wrote about staying in the house, about her toys, about being scared at night. One page said, "The whispering is louder now." I told Daddy, but he says, "It's just the pipes. I don't think the house likes when we talk about it." Another said, "The mirror man came back. He doesn't blink. He just stands there and smiles. He looks like Daddy, but it's not him." My stomach twisted. I flipped to the back. The last entry was dated tomorrow. Tomorrow's date, it hadn't even happened yet. The entry said, "He's back again. He watches me from the hallway. He wants someone new. I think he found someone." That's all it said. No signature. No goodbye. I stared at the page for a long time. My hands were shaking. Then I heard something behind me. A soft creak. I turned around fast. The rocking horse was still moving, but this time it was facing me. I backed out of the room slowly. I didn't look away from it. When I got into the hallway, I shut the door. It didn't click. It stayed open just a crack. I stood there, breathing hard, listening. No sound, no whispering, just silence. I wanted to leave. I thought about grabbing my bag and walking out right then. But I didn't. I don't know why. Maybe it was the money. Maybe it was something else. But part of me needed to know what was happening here. And part of me knew this wasn't going to get better. That night, I stayed in the bedroom with the lamp on. I didn't even try to sleep. I sat on the edge of the bed, just staring at the floor. My mind kept going back to the diary. Tomorrow's date, the line, "He wants someone new." I think he found someone. I didn't want to believe it meant me, but I couldn't shake the feeling. At one point, I got up and walked into the bathroom. Same dusty mirror. Same words scratched in the corner. "Don't listen." I turned the faucet on to splash water on my face. I was tired and on edge. My hands were cold. I looked up at the mirror and froze. There was a man behind me. He wasn't moving. just standing still a few feet back. But it wasn't me. It wasn't a reflection. He looked pale. His skin was grayish, like it had been underwater too long. His hair was dark and slicked down. His clothes were old, like something from 100 years ago, and he was wet, soaking wet, like he had just come in from a storm. But I hadn't heard rain, and the floor behind me wasn't wet at all. I spun around, nothing there. The room was empty. I turned back to the mirror. He was still there, standing in the same spot, still staring at me. I leaned closer. I could see his mouth moving. He was whispering something, but no sound came out. I covered my ears, even though there was nothing to hear. I didn't know why. I just felt like I had to. Then the lights flickered. When they came back on, the man was gone. I ran back to the bedroom and shut the door. I sat on the bed, holding the diary in my lap like it could protect me. I told myself. I imagined it, that maybe I was too tired, but deep down I knew what I saw. Later that night, I left the bedroom to check the front door. I needed to know I could still leave if I had to. I walked down the hallway slowly. That's when I saw him again. The man. He was standing at the very end of the hallway, by the locked room, just standing there. He didn't move. He didn't speak. He just stared at me. My throat felt dry. I took a shaky step forward. "Who are you?" I asked. No answer. I took another step. He turned and walked through the locked door. The door didn't open. He just went through it, like it wasn't even real. I ran to it and tried the knob. Still locked. I pounded on the wood with both hands. Open up. Nothing. I backed away and just stood there, staring at the door. Then I remembered the diary. I ran back to the bedroom and opened it. I flipped to the last page. The one dated tomorrow. There was more writing now, it said. He showed himself again. He watches the new one now. He knows their name. And under that line was my name. My full name, written in the same handwriting as the rest of the diary. I dropped it on the bed and stepped back. I hadn't told anyone my name. Not the client. Not in the email. No one. I sat down and grabbed my bag. I was ready to leave. I didn't care about the money anymore. But when I looked out the front window, the road was gone. There was nothing but black trees and thick fog, like the world outside had changed, like I wasn't supposed to leave yet. I don't think I slept at all after I saw my name in the diary. I just sat on the bed, holding my bag, waiting for morning. But morning never came. The clock didn't move. The sky outside stayed dark. It was like time had stopped. That's when I heard it. A scratching sound, soft but steady, coming from beneath the floor. It wasn't pipes. It wasn't creaking wood. It sounded like fingers, scraping. I stood up, heart pounding, and stepped into the hallway. The scratching moved with me. Like something under the boards was crawling toward wherever I stood. I walked toward the stairs, and that's when I heard something else. Footsteps behind me. I spun around. No one was there. I took one slow step up. The stairs. Another footstep followed. I stopped. So did it. I moved again. So did the sound, matching mine, one by one. But there was no one behind me. I checked over and over. Every time I turned, the hallway was empty. I got to the top of the stairs and turned into a small landing. There were 2 rooms up there. One was locked, the other was open. I walked inside. It was a guest room, bare bed, tall mirror, small desk. That's it. I stepped up to the mirror to check my face. to see if I looked as scared as I felt, but the mirror showed something else. Behind me, in the reflection, there was someone standing in the hallway. I turned around fast. No one. I looked back at the mirror. Still there, a shape, blurry, dark, tall, not moving. I walked backward into the hallway, staring at the spot where the figure had been gone. Gone, I ran back downstairs. I couldn't take it anymore. I needed to leave. I grabbed my phone and opened the camera. I thought maybe I could record something, anything, to prove I wasn't going crazy. I set it up on the nightstand and hit record. I pointed it at the bed and sat down. I waited 10 minutes, then stopped the recording and played it back. At first it looked normal, just me sitting there, breathing heavy. Then I saw something I didn't expect. A second me standing at the foot of the bed. He looked just like me. Same clothes, same face, but he didn't move. He just stood there, staring at me. I watched the video as the version of me on the bed looked around, clearly unaware of the other one standing there. Then the second me leaned down and whispered something into my ear. I couldn't hear it on the video, there was no sound. And then he slowly stepped out of frame. I paused the video and dropped the phone. I was shaking all over. I didn't know what was happening anymore. Was I dreaming? Was I losing my mind? I ran to the front door, ready to get out for good. I pulled it open, but it didn't lead outside. It led to the same hallway I had just come from. I stepped back and shut the door. I turned around. The house was still there. All of it, like I hadn't moved at all. I tried again. Opened the door. Same hallway. Same photos. Same couch. The house was folding in on itself. No matter where I went, I ended up back inside. I ran to the kitchen, hoping maybe there was a back door. There was. I opened it. Same hallway again. I started yelling, screaming, hitting the walls. I tried every window. They all showed trees, but none of them opened. None of them broke when I hit them. It was like the house wasn't letting me go, like it was watching me now, and worse, it knew how to look like me. I had searched the whole house, every room, every door, every window. There was no way out. I sat on the bottom step of the stairs, trying to think. My heart wouldn't slow down. My mouth felt dry. Then I remembered something. When I was upstairs earlier, I saw a ceiling panel in the hallway. A small square with a string hanging down. The attic. I went back up and pulled the string. A wooden ladder dropped down. Dust fell into my face, but I didn't care. I climbed up. The attic was dark, but I had my flashlight in my bag. I turned it on. The space was bigger than I expected. Long and wide, with slanted walls. It smelled like paper and mold. Boxes were stacked everywhere. I opened the first one. Inside were old letters, tied with string. I picked one up and read the top. To Mr. D. Voss, payment enclosed for overnight shift. That name sounded familiar. Opened more letters. They all looked the same. All sent to the same person, D. Voss. But the names of the senders were different. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds. Some were typed, some handwritten. All thanking Mr. Voss for letting them stay in. The house. Most said the same thing. Strange experience, but worth it for the money. I'll come back if needed. See you tomorrow night. I checked the next box. Photos. Black and white. Some in color. All old. Most were of the house. Some showed people standing in front of it. People who looked nervous, but smiling, but the strangest ones, were taken inside. People sitting on the couch, lying in bed, standing in the hallway. None of them looked at the camera. Some looked asleep. I found one photo of a man sitting on the edge of the same bed I had just sat on. He looked exactly like me. Same hair, same jacket, same face. I dropped the photo. My hands were shaking. I opened one last box. IDs, real ones, plastic. Cards, driver's licenses, passports. Each one belonged to someone different. But the faces, they all looked similar. Almost like the same few people, over and over again, but slightly different. Different names. Same client. Divos.I whispered, "What is this place?" Then I heard footsteps behind me, slow. One at a time, I turned around fast. Pointing my flashlight, no one was there. I backed away, tripped over a box, and hit the wall. I started tearing. The papers, shredding photos, throwing things across the floor. I grabbed one of the boxes and slammed it down hard. Then I heard it, a voice right behind me. Low, calm, cold. "It's your turn now." I spun around. There was no one there, but the attic door slowly creaked. Shut above the ladder, click, locked. I was trapped again. I stood there, surrounded by the proof, the letters, the photos, the IDs. All of it. I wasn't the first person to stay here. I wasn't even the first me. And I knew now. I wasn't getting out. I don't know how long I stayed in the attic. Maybe hours, maybe more, at some point. The ladder dropped down again by itself. I didn't hear anyone pull the string. It just opened, like the house was done playing. I climbed down slowly and walked through the hallway. The house was quiet. Still, I sat on the couch and waited for the sun to rise. That's what I kept telling myself. Just wait for daylight. That's what the rules said. Stay until sunrise, and you're free to go. So I sat there, watching the front window, but the sky didn't change. It stayed black. I checked the time on my phone. It said 6:58 a.m. 2 minutes. I waited. Nothing. No light. No glow. No birds. Just pitch black outside. I checked again. 7 a.m. Still dark. I waited longer. 7:30. Still night. 8:15. Same. I got up and walked in circles through the house. I opened every curtain, looked out every window, but all I saw was darkness. Thick, heavy, endless darkness. The kind that feels like it's pressing against the glass. I checked the clocks in every room. They weren't stuck anymore. They were dead. Every one of them. No ticking. No movement. Just frozen hands and empty faces. I went back to the kitchen and stared at the door. I opened it. Same hallway. I tried the back door. Same thing. I looked at the oven clock. It was off. No power now. I held up my phone again. Still had. Battery still had the time. It said 9:12 a.m. Then 10:48. Then 1 p.m. Still dark. I sat on the couch again, gripping my phone so hard my hand hurt. Then, out of nowhere, a sound dawned. An email notification. I opened it. No subject, no sender, just one line. Thank you. The next house sitter has been selected. I stared at the screen. Then I looked at the front door. Still there, still closed. I opened it again. Same hallway, same couch, same house. I turned around and looked back at the photo on the wall. The one with the blurry faces. This time, I swear, I saw myself in it. I was standing next to the others. I backed away slowly. My phone screen went black. The battery wasn't dead. It just turned off. I was alone, trapped in a house that shouldn't exist. A house that doesn't appear in daylight, because daylight doesn't come. Not anymore. Not for me. If you're reading this, then the house lets you find the diary. That means it's your turn now. I don't know how long I've been here. Days, weeks, years. There's no time here, just night. The clocks don't work. The sun never rises. The dark stays the same. I tried to fight it. I tried to escape, but the house doesn't let you go. Not really. You can run from room to room. You can break things. You can scream. It doesn't matter. The doors just lead back inside. The windows don't open. The mirrors show things you shouldn't see. Sometimes they show you things that haven't happened yet. Sometimes they show you, but not you. I saw myself sleeping. I saw myself standing in the hallway. I saw myself in the attic, tearing pages just like you are now. But I don't know if that was really me. I don't even know if I'm really me anymore. I don't remember my name. The house remembers it though. It writes it in places, on the walls, in the diary, in voices I hear late at night. I think it's taken pieces of me, bit by bit, thought by thought. Now I'm just what's left. I don't eat, I don't sleep. I just sit here and wait. And tonight, I heard something new. A knock at the front door. Soft, 3 taps. Like it was asking permission. I didn't answer. I just listened. Then I heard footsteps in the hallway. Someone walking inside. I looked in the mirror just now. It showed a person standing in the entryway. They looked confused, tired, just like I did on my first night. I want to warn them. I want to shout, leave while you still can. But I know it won't help, because I didn't listen either. The house chooses who it wants, and once you're inside, you don't leave. The floorboards just creaked behind me. They're coming closer. I hear it now, that same whisper, right behind me. Welcome home. Every night I hear a knock, but there's no door on that wall. It's the same time every night. A soft knock 3 times, but that wall has no door, no opening, just something waiting behind it. I moved into the apartment last week. It was cheap, quiet, and just far enough from everything that no one would bother me. That's what I wanted. To be left alone after what happened. I needed a reset. The place isn't big. Just 1 bedroom, a bathroom, and a small kitchen. That smells like old paint. The windows don't open all the way, and the lights flicker sometimes. But for the price, I didn't care. I didn't bring much. A mattress, a lamp, some clothes, and my laptop. No photos, no decorations, just enough to get by. The first day was normal. I unpacked, walked to the store, ate frozen food, and tried to sleep. It was quiet. I liked that. But the first night, something felt off. Around 3 in the morning, I woke up. At first, I didn't know why. I wasn't cold, no sounds outside. The building was still. Then I heard it, knock, knock, to slow knocks. Coming from the wall directly across from my bed. I sat up fast. The wall was bare. No pictures, no shelves, and no door. Just flat drywall, painted off-white like the rest of the place. I waited. Nothing. I figured maybe it was pipes or the unit next door. I laid back down a few seconds later. Knock, knock, knock. 3 more dots, same spot, right at the center of the wall. I got up and pressed my ear to it. It was cold, no vibration, no talking, just silence. I knocked back nothing. I went back to bed, pulled the blanket over my head, and told myself it was nothing. Old buildings make weird sounds all the time. That's normal. I finally fell asleep just before sunrise. The next morning, I stood in front of the wall again. It didn't make sense. That side of the apartment doesn't face the street. It doesn't connect to another unit. There's no hallway, no stairwell, just wall. I even tapped around, hoping maybe it was hollow, but it felt solid. Still, I told myself not to overthink it. Maybe I was just tired. Maybe it was a dream. That night, I stayed up until 2 a.m. just to see Dot. Nothing at 2:30. Still nothing at 3:03. It started again. Knock, 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 knock. For this time slow. Even I didn't move. I just stared at the wall. And for the first time, I noticed something. The knocking was always coming from the exact same spot. Like someone was standing on the other side, hitting the same place over and over again. But there's nothing behind that wall. There's not supposed to be the next day. I tried not to think about the knocking. I told myself it was just the building settling. Or maybe something with the pipes in the walls. Old places always make sounds like that still. I kept checking that part of the wall. I even Googled phantom knocking like some idiot. Could be rats, one post said. Another one said, check your wiring. But that wall didn't have pipes or wiring. It was just drywall, nailed to studs. Nothing behind it except empty space, or maybe bricks. I don't know. There was no room behind it, and no one lived on the other side. I knocked again during the day. Nothing answered, so that night I made a plan. Stay awake, see if it happens again. I set an alarm for 2:45 a.m., made coffee, turned off all the lights, sat on the edge of my bed and waited. 2:58, nothing. 3 o'clock, still nothing. 3:02. Then, at exactly 3:03 a.m., knock. I felt my whole body tense. Knock, knock, knock. I started counting 4, 5, 6. 13 knocks, exactly 13. Then it stopped. No. Scratching. No voice, just silence again. I got up and walked to the wall. I pressed my hand against it. Still cold. I leaned in and listened. No sound. Just my own breathing. I knocked back again. One soft tap. Nothing. I stood there for a while. Then finally, went back to bed. The next day, I called the landlord. "Hey," I said, "do you know if the wall across from the bedroom connects to anything? Like a crawl space or something?" She paused. "No, that's an exterior wall," she said. "There's nothing back there." "What about an old door or vent or nope? Solid drywall. You'd see it if something was behind it." Didn't push it. That night, I left my phone recording on a shelf across the room, pointed at the wall. I stayed awake again. Same setup. Coffee, dim lamp, waiting 3:03 a.m. Knock, knock. Same number, same spot. I didn't even have to count this. Time, I already knew. 13. When it ended, I stopped the recording and played it back. But all I heard was static. Right at 3:03, the audio glitched. Video froze for a few seconds. Then it came back on after the knocking had ended. I watched it 3 times. Same thing every time. I thought maybe my phone was just dying, but the battery was fine. That's when I started to feel it. This wasn't just an old wall making noise. This was something doing it on purpose. Same time, same number of knocks. Every night, 13. I stared at the wall for a long time. And the worst part, I started to wait for it. By the 4th night, I knew it wasn't in my head. Every night, same time, same 13 knocks, always on the same spot. Across from my bed. I didn't care if it sounded crazy. I needed answers the next morning. I went downstairs to talk to the building manager. Her name was Carol. She always sat behind this little glass window, doing crossword puzzles and watching a tiny TV. I knocked on the glass. She looked up. "Need something?" "Yeah, I've been hearing this weird knocking in my apartment. Every night, around 3 a.m. She raised an eyebrow. "Plumbing?" "No, it's not in the pipes. It's on the wall. Same spot every night." "What unit? Are you in 3B? She frowned. "That side of the building doesn't share a wall with anything. Just the old service hallway. But it's sealed. No one's used it in years." "Sealed how?" "Drywall, both ends. No access anymore. They closed it off when they did the remodel." "Can I see it?" She paused, then stood up and grabbed a flashlight. "Come on." We went down 1 floor and turned into a side hallway. I hadn't noticed before. It was dark and narrow, with a dusty exit sign above the door. She pointed to a blank wall at the end that used to be the entrance to the old service hall. Ran behind 3 Bytes and 3C. But it's sealed now, you see. There was nothing but a flat wall. No seam, no door frame. Just drywall and paint. "Why'd they seal it?" I asked. She shrugged. "Too narrow. Code violation or something. It's just dead space now." That didn't sit right with me. Later that day, I knocked on my neighbor's door. The person in 3C, an older guy, answered, still in his bathrobe. "Sorry," I said. "I live next door in 3B, just wondering. Do you ever hear knocking on your wall, like late at night?" He squinted at me. "Knocking? Yeah, around 3 a.m. Every night." He shook his head. "I'm a light sleeper. I'd know. No pipes. No weird sounds. Nothing." "You sure it's not in your head?" I forced a laugh. "Yeah, maybe. Just checking, I asked the woman. Across the hall, she said she sleeps with a fan on, but hasn't heard anything weird. She even joked, maybe your place is haunted. That night, I stayed up again. Same setup, same time. 3:03 a.m. Knock, 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 13. I didn't bother counting anymore. I knew it by heart. But this time, I went over and put my hand flat against the wall right where the sound was coming from. It felt colder than usual. I leaned in and whispered, "Who are you?" There was no answer. I stepped back and stared. There's nothing behind that wall but a hallway no one can enter. No room, no door, and no one else hears it. Only me. I was tired of waiting for the knocking. I wanted to know what was really going on, so that night, I set up my phone to record the whole room. I put it on a shelf facing the bed and the wall where the knocks came from. I made sure the battery was full. I turned off the lights and sat on the bed. Wide awake, the clock on my phone said 3 a.m. I kept watching the screen. At exactly 3:03 a.m., the knocking started again. Knock, knock, 13 knocks, like always. But then something new happened. After the knocking stopped, a faint scratching sound started. It was soft, like nails dragging slowly across the wall. I froze. Scratch, 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 It wasn't coming just from the wall anymore. It was all around me. I listened carefully. It sounded like it was coming from under the bed, then from above the ceiling, then from the closet. The scratching moved from one place to another, but always close by. I whispered, "What do you want?" The scratching got louder for a moment. Then it stopped. I was shaking. I looked at my phone. The screen showed the room, but then suddenly flickered. The video froze. The sound went silent. I hit play again. The video cut out exactly between 3:03 and 3:06 a.m. The scratches happened during that time, but the camera didn't record them. It was like the phone refused to capture it. I tried recording every night after that. Same thing, between 3:03 and 3:06 a.m. Nothing on video, only silence, but I could hear it. The scratching, always there. Sometimes it was slow and soft, sometimes faster and louder, always around me. I started dreading that time. I kept checking under the bed, in the closet, above the ceiling. No one was there. Nothing was moving. But the sound was real, and it was getting worse. One night, I almost reached under the bed to see what was causing it, but I stopped. I was too scared. What if something was hiding there? What if it wanted me to see it? I started looking up things online. Nails scratching walls at night. House noises that disappear from video. Nothing made sense. It wasn't normal. It wasn't natural. And no matter how much I wanted it to stop, it kept coming every night. Only between 3:03 and 3:06 a.m. Like a warning or a message. Something was trapped around me. Something trying to get my attention. But I still didn't know why. I couldn't ignore what was happening anymore. The knocking, the scratching, the silence on my recordings. I needed answers. Asterisk. So I went back to the building manager's office. Carol wasn't there, but the maintenance guy was. I told him about the wall. He looked at me like I was crazy. Building plans? I asked. He shrugged. There in the basement storage. Old files. I found the storage room. It smelled like dust and mildew. There were stacks of papers and boxes everywhere. I started digging through them. Finally, I found a folder labeled building plans. 1973. I opened it. The blueprint showed the whole apartment layout, and there it was, a door on the wall across from my bed. A small door, about the size of a closet. But on the plans, it led to a tiny room, not a hallway, just a small, empty room. I flipped through more pages, some notes from the architect, a memo about sealing off that door. Door bricked up in 1981 due to safety concerns. It said, no details why. Then I saw something else, a list of apartments that were empty for years, including mine. According to the papers, this unit was unoccupied for nearly a decade. No one would rent it, no explanation why. I sat down on the floor and stared at the blueprint, that tiny room behind the door. What was in there? Why did they seal it off? And why was the knocking coming from that exact spot? I touched the blueprint's paper. My fingers trembled. I didn't want to believe it, but the knocking, the scratching, it had to be coming from behind that wall, behind that sealed door. I went home and stared at the wall. I pressed my hand against it. The surface was cold and smooth. There was no sign of the door now, just a flat wall, but the blueprint proved it was there, and something was still behind it, waiting after a week. The knocking stopped. At first I thought maybe it was over. No more 3:03 a.m. wakes. No more 13 knocks. I started to relax a little. Maybe the scratching stopped too. But one night, something worse happened. It was just before 3 a.m. I was lying in bed, staring at the ceiling. The silence was so loud, it almost hurt. Then I heard it, a faint sound so soft I thought I imagined it. A whisper, it came from the wall. The same wall I held my breath. The whisper said my name. Just once. Hey, I sat up. My heart pounded. The whisper came again, this time clearer. Let me out. The voice was desperate, broken, weak. I pressed my hand against the wall. It was ice cold, colder than anything I'd ever felt. I whispered back, "Who are you?" No answer, just silence. Then the whisper again, "Please, let me out." I shivered. I wanted to run, but something stopped me. I felt like I needed to listen, to understand. I touched the wall again. It didn't feel like drywall anymore. It felt alive, like it was breathing under my hand. I sat there for what felt like hours. The voice never came back, but the cold stayed. Every night after that, I waited. At 3:03, the knocking didn't come. Instead, the whisper started. Sometimes it said my name, sometimes it begged, sometimes it just breathed. I tried to record it, but the microphone picked up nothing, only silence. One night, I asked aloud, "What do you want from me?" No answer. Then, a soft scrape felt like nails on wood coming from inside the wall. I didn't move. The wall stayed cold. The voice whispered again, "Remember me." I closed my eyes. I felt something I can't explain, like a memory brushing past my mind. But I don't remember. I only remember the cold, the whisper, the fear. Something trapped behind that wall. Something that knows me. Something that wants out. And maybe it's been waiting for me all along. One night, I woke up feeling strange. The bed was cold on one side. I looked down. My feet were dirty. I didn't remember getting out of bed. I looked around the room. There was a trail of dark smudges on the floor. It started at the wall. The same wall where the knocking and whispering come from, and led right to my bed. I stood up carefully and followed the marks. They looked like smears of dirt or something darker. I touched the floor. It was sticky. I didn't know what it was. I sat back on the bed, confused and scared. Why didn't I remember walking? Had I sleepwalked? That thought scared me more than anything. Then I heard it, soft whispering. Not after the knocking anymore. The whisper came first now, right before 3:03 a.m. It said my name again. Come here. Let me in. My heart started pounding. I looked at the mirror across the room. My reflection was there, but it didn't move the same way I did. When I moved my hand, the reflection's hand lagged behind for a second. It was like I was watching someone else. I blinked and rubbed my eyes. Still the same. The lights flickered above me, then went off for a second. When they came back on, the reflection looked different, more hollow, empty. I stepped away from the mirror. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. I started to question everything. Had I been sleepwalking? Or was something else moving my body? Was something else inside me? I didn't want to believe it, but the evidence was there. Dirty feet. Dark SMU-DGES. My reflection acting wrong. The whispering coming before the knocking. I felt trapped, like I was losing control that night. I stayed awake the whole time, but the whisper kept coming, calling me, trying to get me to the wall, to that hidden room behind it. I wanted to run away, but I was too scared to move. I don't know how much longer I can stay here. The house feels alive, now, like it's watching me, waiting for me to give up. To open that door I can't see, to let whatever is inside me. I started losing time one night. I woke up standing in front of the wall. My hands were covered in blood. I looked down and saw my nails were cracked and bleeding. I didn't remember scratching anything. I tried to think back. Nothing. It was like part of me had taken over without warning. I felt dizzy and weak. I sat down on the floor, still staring at the wall. Then everything went black. I dreamed in the dream. I was inside a small room, no windows, no doors, only darkness. I could barely see. A voice spoke. It was cold and rough. You let me in. I couldn't see who was speaking. Now let me out. I tried to speak, but no words came. I felt trapped. The voice was everywhere. Inside my head, inside the walls. I woke up with a start. My hands were still bleeding. I looked at the wall again. There was now a long crack, running from floor to ceiling. It wasn't there before. Something had moved inside the wall. I pressed my hand against the crack. It was cold. The crack seemed to be breathing. I thought I heard a soft whisper, "Help me." I stepped back, scared. I didn't want to touch it again, but I couldn't stop staring. I felt like the wall was alive, like it was waiting for me. That night, I stayed awake longer than ever, watching the crack, listening for voices, waiting for something to happen. The knocking and scratching stopped, but the crack was worse. It grew slowly every night, like a wound getting bigger. I felt like I was losing my mind, like the wall was pulling me in. I tried to patch the crack with tape, but it ripped apart the next day. I told myself to leave, to get out, but when I tried, the door led me back inside, back to the room, back to the wall. The voice came again. You let me in, now let me out. I don't know what it means, or who I let in, but I'm scared. The house isn't just a place, it's a trap. and I don't know if I'll ever get out. It's been 13 nights since the knocking started. 13 nights of waking up at exactly 3:03 a.m. 13 nights of scratching and whispering. And now, something new. The wall across from my bed is bulging. It's pushing out toward me like something is behind it, trying to get out. I reached out and touched it. The surface was cold and wet, almost like skin. It moved slightly under my fingers. I pulled back fast. The air in the room dropped. It got freezing cold all of a sudden. I felt my breath fog in front of me. I knew it was time to leave. I packed my things quickly, my bags, my laptop, the few clothes I had, but I kept looking at the wall. The bulge stayed, like it was waiting. I grabbed my keys and rushed to the front door. I turned the handle and pulled it open, but instead of fresh air or the hallway, I saw my bedroom. The door opened back into the room. I blinked and tried again. Same thing. I was trapped. The wall bulged even more now. Then I noticed something. There was a door on the wall. A real door. A wooden door with old rusty hinges. It was open. Inside was darkness. I stepped closer, heart pounding. I couldn't see the floor or ceiling inside. Just black. A cold wind came out from the opening. It smelled like earth and decay. The knocking started again from inside the dark. Door knock, knock, knock. I wanted to run, but my feet felt stuck, like the room was holding me there. The knocking slowed, then stopped. I stared at the open door. Then I heard a voice, soft and low. Come in. My heart screamed no, but something in me moved toward the door. I wanted to stop myself. I whispered, who's there? No answer, just the cold wind. I stepped back. The door slammed shut. The wall stopped bulging. The room warmed back up, but I knew it wasn't over. I'm trapped here, trapped with whatever is behind that door. I don't know what will happen next, but I know one thing. The door is open now, and it's waiting. I'm writing this now because I don't know how much time I have left. The door on the wall is still open, but it doesn't lead anywhere, just blackness. I've tried to walk through it, but it feels like falling into nothing. There's no floor, no walls, no light, only voices. Whispers, they echo inside that dark space. Sometimes I hear them through the apartment walls. Sometimes the knocking comes from inside the room. Now it's like the house itself is alive and it's watching me. I try to record everything, but every time the camera gets close to that door, the screen goes fuzzy, .static, .I. Don't know why. Maybe it's the door, or something beyond it. I don't remember how I got here. I'm forgetting things. My name doesn't feel right anymore. It's like I'm losing myself. Sometimes I look in the mirror and don't recognize the person staring back. It's like the wall, the door, and whatever's behind it is taking pieces of me. I want to leave, try to open the front door, but it always leads me back inside, back to this room, back to the open door. I don't know if anyone will ever find this. If you do, please listen carefully. If you ever hear knocking on a wall that has no door, don't answer it, not even once, because once you do, it never stops, and the door never closes. Static sound, asterisk.